You're on.
Yeah, we gotta wait for Mike.
Yeah, Mike's here.
Mike's here, we can start.
I can roll now.
Go now.
Nothing starts till Mike shows up.
Mike, you like life cereal?
Witness.
Good evening and welcome to the March 27, 2018 meeting of the Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements.
We got to
Yours not
turn the
working?
mics on.
Mine's on. Is your-
Testing. Testing.
No.
Flip your switch.
Flip your switch. Technical difficulty, please stand by.
Hey, there you go.
How long have we been doing this?
Who did that? Brian.
All right, meeting's carried.
Can you hear me now?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the township clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with township policy.
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for those individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mayor Winterfield?
Here. Next on the agenda is presentations. We have 4 tonight, and we're going to try to do this in an organized fashion. We have 2 Gold Awards and 2 Eagle Scouts. So I'm going to ask the Scouts to come to the front, and I'm going to ask Council to join me too.
No, I'll let you do it, Dave. You have a better voice than mine.
He's just getting his voice back. So I just want to say one thing is Pequannock is so lucky to have so many scouts and so many wonderful projects that they do. But for these 4, I want to really say that their scouting project didn't start with your Gold Award or your Eagle. It started many, many years ago when you were, I'm sure, very young. And that's when you had to accomplish small goals and with all your badges. I mean, look at these. Turn around. Look at this. That's a lot of accomplishments. All of you. You have a lot to be proud of, and we're very proud of you. But I think that one of the last requirements, I know especially of the girls, I went and read all about your Gold Awards specifically, and number 7 is that you share what you did and you explain what you did to people so that you inspire other people to do the things that you did. Because what you did, most girls don't. It's really somewhere between maybe 3 and 4% at the most that accomplish the goal. So I'm going to start here. I want you to introduce yourself, and I want you to say a little bit about what your project was.
My name's Kelly Clark, and I created a workshop where different people of different ages could learn to sew and make quilts since there's no home ec in schools.
That's great. Is there a sample?
This is like a sample of the quilts that were made, and they were sent to Guatemala and the Dominican Republic.
Beautiful.
And other kids donated.
Yeah. That's my accomplishment because they're not teaching things in school like that. And those are things that everybody needs to know how to do. So I think that's a wonderful project. I don't know how it got started, but that's a really great one. Tell about your project.
I'm Sophie White, and I refurbished the snack stand at the Pequannock Township swim team. And through my interest in nutrition and my involvement with them, I created a nutritional menu for the swimmers and the community.
What's something that you added there?
Well, I took away like candies that like weren't being like bought like a lot or like were like really bad.
Like sugar, a lot of sugar?
Yeah. So then I added in like some other nutritional things like granola bars and fruit snacks.
Were there any complaints or no?
No.
No complaints? Well, that's good. Great. Okay.
Hi, I'm John White, and I built a shed for the Pequannock swim team here in town. And I built it to hold the trophies that the team has earned over the years, and there are a lot of them. And so I built it to hold them, and the swim team likes it, and it's being displayed to all people to see.
There's a lot of room for growth.
Yeah.
We have a great swim team, so we have to have room for more trophies. Okay, next.
Hi, my name is Ben Affligo. I redid the gazebo that you see in front of Town Hall.
That's beautiful. Anytime I perform a wedding ceremony here, I always offer to the bride and groom, do you want to go out to the gazebo? And most likely, they say yes. And that's really like the wedding ceremony for pictures. So it serves so many purposes, but that's one that I use on a regular basis. So thank you.
Maintenance free.
Yeah. So we want to read your awards into the record so that it's on video, so it's on YouTube, so it's in the recording, it's in the minutes, so that this goes down in history for Pequannock. Go ahead. Ladies first.
Okay. I am going to start with Kelly's. Okay, we're going to do them each one at a time. Whereas the Girl Scouts of the United States of America is the world's preeminent organization dedicated solely to girls. And whereas for more than 100 years, Girl Scouts of the United States of America has helped girls develop skills and values which enable them to be leaders in their own lives and in the world. And whereas the Girl Scout Gold Award is the highest achievement a Girl Scout can achieve, it symbolizes outstanding achievement in the areas of leadership, community service, career planning, and personal development. And whereas, in order to receive the Gold Award, a Girl Scout must complete a Girl Scout journey, uphold the standards of excellence, and complete a project which makes a lasting impact on the lives of others. And whereas Kelly has completed the requirements and met the high standards for the Gold Award, including her service project, organizing a sewing mentoring event which provided quilts for developing countries. And whereas Kelly's Girl Scout activities and achievements have brought honor to herself, her family, and her community. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Township of Pequannock and its residents, Mayor Kathy Winterfield, and members of the Township Council hereby recognize the achievements of Kelly Pilar in earning the Girl Scout Gold Award. So, congratulations. Okay. And next we have Sophie. Whereas the Girl Scouts of the United States of America is the world's preeminent organization dedicated solely to girls. And whereas for more than 100 years, Girl Scouts of the United States of America has helped girls develop skills and values which enable them to be leaders in their own lives and in the world. And whereas the Girl Scout Gold Award is the highest achievement a Girl Scout can achieve, it symbolizes outstanding achievement in the areas of leadership, community service, planning, and personal development. And whereas in order to receive the Gold Award, a Girl Scout must complete a Girl Scout journey, uphold the standards of excellence, and complete a project which makes a lasting impact on the lives of others. And whereas Sophie has completed the requirements and met the high standards for the Gold Award, including her service project, organizing and repairing the PV Park snack stand, and developing a healthy menu for the Pequannock Piranha swim team. And whereas Sophie's Girl Scout activities and achievements have brought honor to herself, her family, and her community. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Township of Pequannock and its residents, Mayor Kathy Winterfield, and the members of the Township Council hereby recognize the achievements of Sophie White in earning the Girl Scout Gold Award.
I'm going to do Beneflito, and I'm going to stand next to Ben. So it says, whereas for 100 years, the Boy Scouts of America has helped mold the future leaders of this country by combining educational activities and lifelong values with fun, and whereas the involvement of young men in the Boy Scouts of America of great importance to our community and our country, and whereas the rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor a Scout can attain in the Boy Scouts of America. And whereas Pequannock Township resident Benjamin Afflito has earned his required 21 merit badges and completed a service project for the benefit of the community, the planning and replacement of the gazebo outside of Pequannock Town Hall. And whereas Ben was presented with an Eagle Scout Award at a court of honor on the 30th day of December 2017, and where Benjamin's scouting activities and achievements have brought honor to himself, his family, and his community. Now on behalf of the Township of Pequannock and its residents, Mayor Kathy Winterfield, and members of the Township Council, hereby recognize the achievements of Benjamin Afflito in obtaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Congratulations, Ben.
Last one. All right, whereas for more than 100 years, the Boy Scouts of America has helped mold the future leaders of this country by combining educational activities and lifelong values with fun. And whereas the involvement of young men in the Boy Scouts of America is of great importance to our community and our country. And whereas the rank of Eagle Scout is the highest honor a Scout can attain in the Boy Scouts of America. And whereas Pequannock Township resident John H. White has earned the required 21 merit badges and completed a service project for the benefit of the community, the planning and replacement of the gazebo outside of Pequannock Town Hall. John was presented with the Eagle Scout Award at the Court of Honor on the 30th day of December 2017. And whereas John's scouting activities and achievements have brought honor to himself, his family, and his community. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Township of Pequannock and its residents, Mayor Catherine Winterfield, and the members of the Township Council hereby recognizes his achievement of John H. White in attaining the rank of Eagle Scout.
You want to squish up if anyone wants to get pictures. And then if the family wants to join afterwards. Yeah, well, take your time, take your pictures, and congratulations again, family, whoever wants to come out, congratulations. We really appreciate the projects that you guys do. You guys are awesome. I love the process. Yeah, they could be the worst.
One talks to me.
Yeah.
Was he impressed?
Yeah, he said he couldn't believe it. It was like, he was impressed, and it was funny. I had only been there. Come on, I never got that far. He does like conduit. Rich and I are in the same boat. What are you doing? I said,
Or anybody else who
okay.
That was the only mistake I made.
Now we have seats.
gazebo?
Yep. Sorry about that.
That's it. They half of them left. Everybody good?
Sorry.
At this time, are there reports or comments from any volunteers serving our community? Joe?
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street, Pequannock, Pompton Plains, actually. It's really bad that they all left because I have 2 Eagle projects left on the Riverwalk that I need either a Gold Award for a Girl Scout or an Eagle project for a Boy Scout. So if anybody's still listening to that, I'd be glad to talk to them about a project. I wanted to report on the rail trail first, the Morris County Trail through town, and I basically want to mention two things. One is that we're still reviewing the property. If you remember from the last conversation, we had a lot of property owners in town that there were incursions into the right-of-way for the rail trail, and we're in the process of contacting those people and discussing how we can resolve that. The other thing was that I had previously mentioned to you about the Piacosta property, and in talking to Anthony Piacosta, his remediation issues are going to take longer than we thought. I had given you a time frame about a year and a half, maybe, where we could start discussions. That's going to be pushed out to about 2.5 years now because of the requirements for his EPA certification. But the good news is, in reviewing that, his property has already been reviewed by the EPA to get his fill credit certification. So the property has already been reviewed for, let's say, toxic waste or any problems of that nature. So when we do enter into that discussion, getting a phase one or a review of the property should be quite simple relative to what we had before. Any questions on those things?
I have a question on now what's the proper name? Is it the rail trail? Is it a bike path? What's the real name?
It is the NYS&W pedestrian bicycle trail.
Okay.
In other words, the NYS&W name is still going to be part of the nomenclature.
Okay, I don't know if it's based on the outreach to some of the residents, but I've been getting some emails from residents saying that the county is going to present at one of our council meetings, and they wanted to know when that was. I said I wasn't aware of that. Is that in the correspondence that they're receiving, that there'll be a presentation to Pequannock?
Yeah, we are having meetings. In fact, we'll be having meetings with...
But I mean a presentation to the public.
Yeah, oh yes, definitely.
But that's not in April, is that?
I don't know if we're going to do it that soon. We're working out the property scenarios. And as I had mentioned, we're not looking to begin construction until April of next year.
2019.
Yeah, 19. But definitely before that, we're going to have public meetings to.
Okay. Well, we just want to make sure we advertise them appropriately and within enough time so that people know to come, because they're asking me, and I'm like, well, I'm not aware of it, so.
Yes, that's part of the requirement for the grant that we have, to make people aware of, what we're doing and so forth. And we have done outreach programs in the past, but it seems like it's such a long time ago that we did those things. Yeah. Anyway, any other questions on Morris County?
Anybody else have any questions? No?
All right, switching to the Open Space Committee. Actually, one thing before everybody leaves, like last time, I want to just mention the Mayor's River Cleanup that's going to happen April 7th. Anybody wants to volunteer, we're going to meet at Senior House on Saturday morning. We start around 9 o'clock and usually only goes till maybe 1 or less, depending. I have to say that both Rudy and myself have done some review, and the town is about the cleanest I've seen in, I guess, been doing this about 7 years or so. It's really good. Even the jug handle on Route 23 at Alexander it's not perfect, but it's not as bad as it's.
Yeah, that's usually where I go.
Yeah. So I'm happy to see that people are paying more attention and not leaving more garbage, around. The other thing is that on April 21st, we're going to be doing a tree planting along the Pequannock Avenue section of the Riverwalk. We've got a donation from the Conservancy in conjunction with a group from AmeriCorps, and we're looking for volunteers. This is another volunteer project. Anybody would like to help us plant trees along Pequannock Avenue? We have 1 and 2 foot saplings that are in a root ball, and we have protection for them. I guess as the council knows, we planted quite a few trees one time previously, but didn't have any protection, and the survival rate was very poor. This time, in working with the Conservancy, we have a shield that goes around the planting and should create a much better survival rate. We're going to be planting shrubs. As as you know, some residents along both Pequannock and Riverside and other parts of the trail wonder what we were going to do with the property, and maybe some people feel, well, we're going to bring it to a natural state. Some people feel it's somewhat unsightly. So planting the trees, we're going to take down some of the weeds. The idea of the Roots to Rivers program, that's what this is called, is to stabilize the soil and riverbanks along the river to reduce erosion and stabilize the soil and create a more park-like environment with various pine, deciduous, and conifer trees that are native to this area, and also shrubbery along the roadside where you would have a better feeling to create the park that.
How many trees are you going to be doing?
We're looking for 600 trees and shrubs, combination of trees and shrubs.
That's a lot of planting.
A lot of planting.
That's more than a Sunday or a Saturday morning.
Well, no, I haven't done this myself, but the young fella from AmeriCorps that I'm working with has done it before, and he's indicated that he's done that type of planting in half a day. I find that hard to believe myself, but in any event, it all depends on the number of people and their enthusiasm. We've reached out to the high school environmental group, the flood control green team, all the people that are into those kind of things, planting and so on. But we still need a lot of just general citizens, so if anybody's interested, April 21st at Pequannock.
Who do they get in touch with?
Me.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have a flyer that I'll put in town hall, and I'm going to put it on the website so that people can do that. The last thing, I've got the final map for the Riverwalk, which I'll be posting on in the kiosk on Pequannock Avenue and at Harrison, and also I have a copy we could put in town hall so people could actually see what the final.
As to not be confused with the bike path.
Yes, right. The Riverwalk,
right,
and the NYS&W bicycle pedestrian trail.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Oh, I do have one other thing. In talking to the Director of Parks for Morris County, in the last session we had about the skate park, it was brought up that why couldn't we put the features along the rail trail? And in talking to the director, he's done a couple of skate parks on Morris County property with other municipalities. He doesn't. My sense is that I don't know how it would work out, and as opposed to having this central location, which is what has been the idea for it. But he indicated that we could do macadam bump outs and create some environments there, and he'd like to talk to the council about it, just for something to discuss.
How many places will it be to leave from the bike path and enter into Pequannock?
Well, we're going to, obviously at all the street intersections, Turnpike, at Jefferson, Alexander, but we plan Washington Park. Okay. We plan at PV Park. Also at Town Hall, and
how about by the train station?
Train station is actually on the trail. So in fact, I project that if you want to invest in Quick Check, it's a good idea because that's going to be the highlight. People will be, parking in that area, having lunch on the platform at the rail station.
So they need a place for their bicycles.
Yeah. Well, putting a bike rack up is something we could consider. And the other thing is the terminus is going to be at Aquatic Park, and we're going to have an entrance from the rail trail to property that the town we lease from the DOT, where we plan to have a parking lot that would be both for the rail trail and the entry into the park itself, the Aquatic Park.
Is anybody going to start any discussions with Riverdale? Or they just don't want to do that at this time?
I think there's two factors with Riverdale. They want to, other other than Rich, there's other people that are skeptical that ever will happen.
Well, there's different people in power at this point. Yeah.
In any event, we feel, we've discussed this a lot, and if they don't want to come on board at this point, we're not going to push them. But we feel two things will happen. Once the rail trail is completed, it's very likely they'll want to continue it. And the other thing is there's been a discussion of a bridge across at Harrison from Morris County into Passaic County. And while we've had discussions about that and there's been some money set aside by Riverdale, again, until the rail trail is complete, you won't have the impetus, the motivation to complete those things.
Okay. I'm glad we're getting close. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other volunteers? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Jack Inglis, 358 Boulevard. I'm here to talk about the recent decision.
Is this a volunteer or are you public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can stay right there. All right?
I'm sorry, I thought this
So there were no more volunteers. Okay, yeah. So just hang out.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is public comment. The public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. You're up.
So I'm Jack Inglis, 358 Boulevard, and the reason I thought you were calling me is because I'm a volunteer coach. And
You're a volunteer.
For both Little League and for Crunch. So the reason I'm here tonight is to talk about the recent decision that Parks and Rec made to eliminate softball to be played on Washington Park Field 1. While we do understand that this was not a decision that was made based on gender, the end result, excuse me, the reality is that there is not one girl in Pequannock Little League that plays baseball above age 7. And there is not one boy that plays softball. Most of you probably figured that out. So what this has done is basically said that girls are no longer allowed to play on Washington Park 1. And in addition to that, young children under the age of 7. We are told that the reason behind this is because there was a consultant that was consulted with, and they told them that softball ruins the field. I can tell you that not one coach in this room believes that. That may be the case at the high school level. That level softball is never played on Washington Park 1. I have never instructed an infielder to play on the grass of Washington Park 1. Every infielder I've ever had has played on the dirt, just like a baseball player would. The one argument you could make is the pitcher's mound. In the past, there was a dirt lane between the pitching rubber and home plate. If that were put back in, it would solve the entire problem. This is also a major scheduling issue for Little League because at any given time, they have multiple games going on, okay? One field for softball is not enough. And they need all fields. And this is not just a Little League issue. As a matter of fact, I was here in September when we were fighting to have other towns not come in and take the fields from the Crunch organization. So this is the second time we're here to defend girls softball. So that said, I want to leave time for other parents to come up, say their points of view, but I just want to see if there's anything that we can do about this.
Well, the one thing I'll say before others come on, and I'd like to hear what they have to say too, is that council doesn't administer Little League's fields or work, or we have jurisdiction over Parks and Rec. You know, we work on the budgets, we work on policies, we work on hiring a manager, appointing an attorney, things like that. I would hope that you've worked with Parks and Rec and worked with David Holberg and had meetings with them, trying to come with resolution, and that we're your last hope. So because that's what we would be. We'd be your last hope, where we would have a discussion with our manager to maybe change policy or rules, but we don't set them.
Right.
That's not our role in this. We're happy to hear this. We're not the judge and jury. We want to make sure that the employees of the town are doing their jobs and doing everything right to make sure that the children are safe on what they're playing on. From what was shared with me, what little bit, I know more about soccer than I do about baseball and softball, but a little bit of education and pictures that were showed with me, that field before it was redone was in disrepair and was dangerous to be played on. And what I've read, what's been shared with me from Parks and Rec is softball is different than baseball. And one is on dirt or clay and one is on grass. There's different mounds, and I'm not an expert in any of this. I lean on our Parks and Rec director to be the expert on that. And I understand that he has a robust program to get all of our fields. This is a list of all of our fields. It looks like there's about 8 or 9 softball, so I don't know why there's just one. I mean, these are indicated as softball.
So the main issue here is that Washington Park 1 is the
premier field.
Premier field, okay. And all these girls look forward to playing on Washington Park 1. Well,
softball players. Let's don't get gender into this, all right? Because it's softball versus baseball. And at any time, you might not have. This season there aren't any, but next season you might. There are people in the past who have played, there are girls who have played baseball.
Agreed.
And all that. So I really don't want to talk about girls and boys. All right, I want to talk about, maybe baseball versus softball and what's safe and what isn't safe and rules and regulations and all that stuff. This is not about gender, and there are no decisions that were made based on gender. I just want to get that out.
I understand that, and I understand that wasn't the intent.
I know, but we all got to watch our vocabulary,
right?
Because it starts to turn into a gender issue, which this is not a gender issue. All right, this is about 2 different games played on certain kinds of fields with certain regulations, and if we want to start playing the gender card, that's a whole nother story we're talking about, and I don't think that's what we're talking about. I think we're talking about safety, we're talking about rules, we're talking about games, and we're talking about the amount of players that use certain fields, and do we have enough fields for everybody to play? We spend $400,000 maintaining our fields every year, and we're arguing about one field right now. So we got to have some common ground here as a community, and I don't want to talk about gender. I don't believe this is about gender, and I think there is a resolution here. I don't think we'll solve it tonight, and I don't think it's council's job to solve it. We're here to listen. We'll work with the township manager and Parks and Rec director. We'll come up with a solution. We have to come up with a solution. We can't be filling rooms like this because we're worried about, I tell you, I heard so many things about this. I was ready, well, let's just tear down everything, and then we'll just have, everybody will play on every field but that field one, and then we'll be all fair, because this is ridiculous that the community has come to this. I want to hear what everybody has to say. The manager is going to listen to what everybody has to say, if he hasn't already heard it. And then we can start to have some constructive talks about how we can solve this problem together as a community and what's best for our children, and stop pitting each other against each other. So I really applaud you for coming. I applaud all of you for coming. We're all passionate about our kids and whatever they want to do, and we want them busy. We don't want them on drugs. We don't want them drinking. We don't want them in basements playing all their video games and doing whatever we do. We want them out and about and playing. We want to see what they're doing. I think we all have that goal, and we have different ways of accomplishing that goal. So we want to hear what you have to say, and we're not going to solve it tonight, but we want all of your input, because you're all here, you took the time to come. Let's listen to it. Let's get it all out.
I'm happy to let somebody else speak, but one quick solution is to purchase a $150 pitching mat, which would solve any of the field problems, and the girls in softball and boys, young boys, could also get back on that field.
Okay.
I started this by saying I know that...
And I wasn't lecturing you.
Right, okay. I know that it wasn't Parks and Rec intention to segregate boys and girls.
No.
I just wanted to make sure that the council understood that the bottom line is that both young boys and girls and softball can no longer be played on that field, and that does segregate a bunch of children.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We really want to hear from you. Come on up.
Ed Reitz, One West Parkway. Again, I'll reiterate what Jack said. I don't think anybody believes that this was meant to be gender specific. Let's go back to the point where we talked about softball fields and baseball fields, right? So on the map, it said there's softball fields in town, but every I wouldn't call them softball fields, they're multi-use fields.
Okay.
Because every field in town, whether it has dirt on it or grass, has a baseball mound permanently mounted into it. So every time girls go to play, they have to either put in a rubber and pitch in front of the mound. As the girls get older, they actually have to come back before the mound, make sure they don't step in.
You're talking about softball?
I'm talking about softball.
Okay.
Softball.
Let's give it support.
So when you mention baseball and softball fields, there are no true softball fields on Hillview or Washington or Town Hall, even though they are dirt infields. The mounds are used for baseball. And baseball.
Because they're multi-use.
Well, because they're multi-use. Okay. And baseball pitches off of an elevated mound. Softball's supposed to pitch on flat rubber. And, we were talking about grass and dirt and all that thing. Even Little League, and there are more people here that have more knowledge than I do, but even Little League plays their world championships on grass and fields. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
When they redid Field 3, did they eliminate the mound? Because it's not as pronounced as Field 1. Am I correct by saying that?
It's a grade of the field. It's still it's only 6 inches above home plate. The mound for Little League is 6 inches above grade of home plate.
Can you come up to the mic? We can't hear you.
Yeah, just for the record. Just your name and address and... Sorry, but it's important that we hear it all.
Doug Trost, President of Pequannock Little League, 164 West Parkway. To answer Dave's question, the Little League mound is 6 inches above home plate by grade, but the grade of Field 3 is such that it is pronounced as some other fields. That's the only difference. And the softball pitches at a shorter distance than baseball.
Doug, technically, should that mound be taken out to be a softball field?
No. We've been playing that way. Field 1 has been used for softball and baseball since my daughter was 12. She's now 40.
Well, I saw that it was used for that, but I saw the destruction that was there, and I don't know if that's just because it's maybe in wetlands.
It was not maintained at all the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of time that was spent on it was not as much as it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. We've replaced the sod. Little League, at their own expense, has replaced the sod on that field 3 times since I've been here. My brother and I have been here 30 years.
Should softball be played on grass, or would it be advantageous to play it on clay or dirt? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Are there regulations?
When we went to the national championships in Oregon, it was played on a grass field. When we went to the regional finals in Albany, it's played on a grass infield. Okay? When you get down to, if you want to put just names, softball's normally played on clay, and baseball's played with grass. Okay? But you can play baseball on clay also. They're multiple use. But the idea is, and why these people, I think, are upset, is that it's a premier field. I got pictures of me walking off that field when I was 10 years old, okay? And back then it had chicken wire on it, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But,
since there's only one Field 1, and it is considered to be the premier field, it ends up getting a lot of use. And part of the difficulty in maintaining it is the fact that it gets so much use. And even just trying to take it out of service to rehab it for a season ends up, causing scheduling
what we try to do in our scheduling is we try to give everyone time on Field 1, right down to the littlest kids, okay, on up, so that they get that moment. Not twice a week, once a week. I understand what you're saying, but the fields have always been, since I played back in 1956, okay? Field 1 was the best field. Field 2 was the second best. And Field 3 was, to be honest with you, was not very good, okay? It has been. It was a cinder field back when I played on it, okay? And Field 1 and 2 were the 2 best fields. The amount of maintenance that we put into them, okay, the last few years have been really null. okay? And they've dragged the fields for us, and that's about it. Okay?
And I think we acknowledge that, and, we've put forth a plan to improve all of our fields over time. We just can't do every field in a single year. What is the objection to, developing an additional premier field? Why can't we have
I personally have no objection to that.
One specifically for baseball and one specifically for softball, so that we can have enough fields to serve all of the needs of the community.
Only there's certain requirements that are put on us if we're going to host, and we've hosted state finals at our town at both softball and baseball level, and they've all been on field one. Okay, we have the requirements of the stand behind it to do the scoring. Okay, we have the announcing booth, which we don't have. I've talked with Pete, and Pete's talking about putting some PA equipment down at Field 3, and if we could bring Field 3 up. Unfortunately, in my history with Field 3, it doesn't have a good base. Okay, at one point, back where you're talking about the multi-purpose fields at this point, when I played, that was all swamp. That's all been filled, and I think there's a problem with it. It drifts down to Field 3. Only that, and I'm telling you, there's a big difference. When it rains, we can play on 1, we can usually play on 2, we can't play on 3. It's been that way.
Do you feel that is still the way? It's still.
I don't know that. I can't answer that. They spent money on it, and Bruce Vickwitz gave us his time and his equipment, and dug out Field 3. It wasn't. I don't know how many years ago. It wasn't that many.
20 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. And did it, and it did not really improve the problem. There was he found below the surface a base of red clay, more like what you'll find on the tennis courts on Manor. In other words, it doesn't absorb any of the water than you will on a baseball field like it's supposed to be.
Hey, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but couldn't you have Field 2 be a premier field for softball, and 1 be for baseball, and 3 be a multi-purpose? You would just have to up Field 2.
Yeah, but you're still missing the announcing stand. You're still missing the.
No, but we'd eventually have to get that. Get the.
I have no problem
sound system. It already has dugouts.
I have no problem with doing that. Okay, and we just spent a large amount of money on the dugouts. Okay, at our expense again, donations and our expense. We put about half the bill. Okay.
Well, I imagine that. And I'm not involved in all the details of running the town, nor do I want to be, but Peter from Parks and Rec reached out, was trying to coordinate some kind of, planning meetings and all this. And I guess, I don't know how much input he got from Little League or not from Little League.
Whenever he reached out to me, I reached back to him. Right. I got Pete's cell phone number, and I talked to him I talked to him tonight to tell him that I was coming here tonight.
Well, the field's already redone, so this was done a long time ago.
I'm saying, every time he's reached out to me, I've reached out. Mm-hmm. My opinion, the information he received from the consultant to take the people off of softball off of Field 1 was not good information. To take our international league, our 7-year-olds, it's the biggest thrill of their life to go. It's like playing at Yankee Stadium to them. Okay, to get out there and play there, they're not hurting anything. They're not hurting the grass. Okay, they're not doing any damage to it. So it's just a thrill. We don't put them there every night. We put them there once a week.
But how long did it take for that field to get in disrepair? How many years?
It's in constant. It's constantly being repaired, constantly.
Yeah, but how can it be repaired if it doesn't get any rest?
Over 3 years, 3 times in my tenure, we replaced the side completely on the infield. Took out the lips. Numerous times we've gone in there and graded it. Okay, Denise and I went through with a consultant back then, talking about what we need to do. Okay, we were talking about putting in a warning track up on the outfield. The consultant wanted $10,000 of putting a 5-foot warning track. Didn't sound like good money spent to me, so we didn't spend it. But all the money that was spent at Washington Park, other than the daily maintenance, we re-fenced it last time.
Well, what do you think would happen, Doug? We're talking about Field 1's usage. What do you think would happen if we just allowed softball to be there? How long would it be before it looks like it looked, before it was redone?
I don't think softball did any of that.
I'm just saying, how long do you think it'll be before it gets, I'm saying you
I
did
think
it.
the normal use, you're going to get use from both of them, but I don't think...
Well, you think it's going to be 2 years, 3 years, 1 year before it gets back to where it was?
I think if you just play baseball on it...
No, if we just go back to whatever we were doing before.
If you don't, and I said this to Pete, if you don't put the normal time in there, we have to have people raking it, we have to push the clay back out of the grass basically after every game. If you go to Williamsport and watch them, they maintain the field there, they're out there with brooms after every game, pushing the clay back in and doing it. I don't know that we have the resources in the town to do it to that level. But you're going to get lips.
Is Little League the only people who play on that field?
No, women's softball play there.
Okay.
Travel.
All on field one? All on field one?
On all of them, yeah.
But I'm talking about field one. I'm talking about field one that was. Well, I think what has to happen here, and I'm not going to, tell Dave what to do at this point, but I mean, I think there needs to be a regrouping of the leaders of these organizations. You need to sit down in a room with Pete, with David, come up with a plan. You should have done this months ago. That until we got to this point, this is insane.
How many kids are playing baseball, softball this year?
We're around about 500. Just under 500.
Just under 500, Dave.
And
50 girls.
What was it last year?
We're about the same. Yeah, we've gone down. We've lost most of the area where we lost our kids were the 13, 14, and 15-year-olds. We lost those on both girls and boys because they went to travel leagues, but they're still playing on our fields. Okay, but they're just not playing. They're playing on, or they're putting a lot more money out per family to play these games and travel and go to different towns.
So if you have 500 children, how many fields do you need to maintain 500 children?
Right now, when we played 500 on 3 fields at one point.
So 3 fields would maintain 500 people.
Yeah.
You got to also say that there's been a decrease from 10 to 15 years ago.
Oh, without a doubt. But then again, you've had to look across.
People are having less kids, so,
Yeah.
That's the population.
Well, the school enrollment's down too, so.
Because, I mean,
But I didn't want to take up time. I'd be more than happy to answer anybody's questions. I'd be glad to meet with Dave and Pete, and I've been in contact with Pete on a regular basis. Some emails going around, and I'm not an email person, okay? You won't see my name on an email, okay? Except to say okay or yes to something if I'm coming. But
Well, I think it's more than baseball, because you have all these fields in town. I think the leaders of all these field games, sports, need to sit in a room and hash this out and come out what's best for Pequannock.
I agree with the mayor that it's what needs to happen so everybody can have input, and I think that didn't happen. I mean, it seems to me the solution here, and I'm not an expert, so I don't know, but it's either you need 2 premier fields, one for baseball and one for softball,
which is where Pete's leaning. And
Or
I don't have a problem with that either, to be honest with you, if you bring it up to that level.
And have...
It seems like we have a lot of fields,
be able to play
and not enough.
But I'm giving you my opinion, and I didn't even plan to come here to speak tonight, except to answer questions if somebody had it. But I'd like to hear from the rest of the people. I don't want to take up everybody's time, so.
I just hope
we got to change the school hours so they can play earlier.
I also, Mayor, and don't get mad at me, but I don't know why we have women's softball playing.
It's not women.
On those fields.
I don't know why it comes to council to figure this out. I'm not a sports expert. You know about certain things. I think the leaders of these really got to sit down and decide. It's your tax dollars that pay for this, everybody. And everybody who's out there pays for all this. And it's a matter of figuring out the most efficient, best bang we can get for our buck for what we have. And we don't need to fight. We need to figure it out. We can figure this out. We're smart people.
Yeah,
here's my feeling. We finally have someone in Parks and Rec that has seen the need of our parks Pete actually toured every park. He saw the condition of the backstops, he saw the conditions of the fencing, he saw the condition of the fields, and he came to us and he said, listen, we need to put money into the budget to improve these fields.
Right.
He wanted to do it all at once. We cannot afford to do it all at once. So he has a plan of fixing each field and backstops and fences each year in the budget.
Right.
So.
And he's still developing that plan.
Right. Pete is a asset, I would think, to Parks and Rec, Pequannock Little League, Pequannock Softball, because he saw the need. So, you know, I don't, we can't shoot Pete for doing what he did. I mean, finally he got council to approve some money to put into the budget to improve these fields. And, you know, he not only did Field 1, he did Field 3 because he wanted to make sure we had 2 good fields. So go ahead, Dwight.
Okay, Dwight Trost, 19 Nichols Road, Pompton Plains. I agree with Dave. Pete's done a good job for us. I don't agree with the fact that he didn't reach out for us enough. We're all volunteers, we all work. He tried to schedule a couple of meetings during the day. Okay, sent out some emails, made some phone calls. We met, Elaine Sickles and I met with Pete and Barbara Malloy before the fields were even done. And he asked us some questions, and we said, Pete, if you put this as a baseball field only, this is what you're going to get. Right here, you're going to have a problem. It's going to be a gender thing. That's what it is right now. Okay, I don't agree with it as a gender thing, but it is in a lot of people's minds.
Wow.
Okay?
They got to open their eyes and see what this really is. This is an issue between softball and baseball in the past of what's been done for many years.
Okay, and that's...
Now you're just taking it away from the softball. That's how they feel, though.
Yes, you've taken it away. You've taken...
Well, here's one thing.
It's a $20,000 investment on Field 1, according to Pete. It's not a $200,000
It's a township asset.
It's not somebody's living room where you're not allowed to go in and sit on the couches. It's a field to be played on. Okay, this was a mistake. Pete made a mistake, and I like Pete. He's doing a good job, and I appreciate the fact he's spending money, and you guys are giving him money. But he needs to admit he made a mistake, and we can move on from there.
Well, I don't think this is a place to be pointing fingers. I think everybody has to sit in a room.
I'm not pointing fingers at anyone.
I don't think this council...
We were told after the last Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting, where basically Pete told the crowd there that we were not offering any assistance, we weren't returning phone calls, we weren't replying to Dave. I don't get no phone calls. I got a couple. I returned them. I met with him.
But what happens? I asked
Ryan Hurt. I asked Ryan. I'm not throwing you under the bus, and I apologize. I didn't question you the other night. When I saw you the other night, I should have questioned you about it.
Yeah, you're just trying to throw me out the window. But
yeah, that's all. That was a rough room. He promised. This is secondhand, but from Lisa Nelson, you promised you would get together with Dave and all the council members, the consultant, and Pete, and this has got to be 3 weeks ago now, and discuss it, what you're suggesting right now. Now we're 3 weeks closer to our season, and we're under the 8 ball here now.
Well, say we go back. Say if we just wave the wand and we go back and you can play there and do whatever you want. How long before it's in disrepair again and it's unsafe to play on?
Pete has promised us...
It's going to be years.
It's going to be years.
And then who's going to fix it? Who's going to pay for it?
According to Pete, Parks and Rec, Town Council of Taxpayers of Pequannock.
He said we'll just put it back and then just let it go and we'll put $20,000.
We are not...
I don't think that the girls' softball really does that much damage. I think if it was a $200,000 field, I have to say, okay, that's one thing. But in reality...
Because it wasn't maintained?
I think because it wasn't maintained. And yes, we do have an issue. We're all volunteers. There's only so many of us. And, it is hard. So we're doing a bunch of games, and to be able to rake it afterwards, and quite frankly, a lot of the coaches don't understand how to rake. I didn't when I started. No clue.
I think at the end of the day, in reality, I don't think it's going to be a big deal or it's going to hurt, one, if we use it for the next 2 years. And we still keep on track with getting a second and third premier. And then maybe at that time, if it makes sense to make a true softball field that does not have a mound.
But what you're saying is there's not proper training on how to maintain it properly.
There can always be better.
This is, in our discussions with Pete, we're not allowed to touch the fields anymore. Okay, this is, I guess, comes from his consultant. He's going to control all field maintenance. We're not even allowed to put a rake on it. Okay, I wish him luck. Okay, I don't know that he has the staff to do it. He's going to control all rainouts, basically the fields.
Did Pete say that he wanted to bring the consultant in to meet with your coaches?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, okay, so
but that's counterproductive because we're not allowed to touch the field. So why? That's exactly what I said to Pete.
I thought it was going to be what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing.
Do not touch the fields. They will control the fields. As a matter of fact, he told me he has an app that's going to signal to us when Washington Park 1's ready for play. Washington Park 2 is now ready for play.
Yeah, but my 2 cents is the coaches, put a lot of effort into those fields. I mean, you get somebody sliding to home and they kick all the dirt all over the place, so we're not supposed to touch it? That doesn't make sense. I think there's a difference between the right...
You know what? I'm not trying, and Kathy said...
Oh, no, we need to hash this out.
I like Pete a lot.
Okay.
I disagree with some of the things he did, and like I said, my main point is he made a mistake, and he just has to admit it.
Well, we're all big people. I
understand.
I don't think it's just a matter of overturning what he said. I think you need to be in a room, and I think you need to discuss it, and you need to walk out of that room with some kind of agreement.
We've tried.
And I don't mind.
Maybe you need a mediator.
Question: does it all come in Field 1? Does it all come down to maintenance, or is it also the design of what was prepared?
It's purely maintenance. It looks to me, and I'm not an expert either, but the field looks good right now. It's gorgeous.
So it's not like
I don't know that it'll hold up.
It's not like we were supposed to do something before in the design phase to make it for softball.
No, it looks like they finally got it right, although Field 3 is still washing into the parking lot, which I called Pete the first day it happened, and I said, Pete, Field 3 is now in the parking lot. He said, oh, no, the consultant told me it's just to skim the top. I'm like, how many times is the top going to come off? And your $15,000 is wasted. I personally liked it when he said, don't touch the field. Because that's off of us then. We spent 30 years, my brother and I and many other people come before us, putting money into that field.
All right.
We were, for lack of a better term, a cash cow for the town for years. We built those buildings. We put
for Little League, not for Little League.
No, we donated them to the town.
Yeah, but for Little League, right?
No,
yeah, for
we
Little
don't own
League.
them.
Yeah, for Little League. Yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't like what brother said.
I think people who want to speak.
Okay, I didn't intend to speak either.
Well, I'm glad you did.
I took offense at one more comment. When the shape of the fields, when Pete went and toured them, exactly what my brother said. The town ignored them for the last 2 or 3 years because this stuff was coming. They knew they were going to be tearing them up, and particularly last year, they didn't do a thing. They were unsafe. We played as best we can. We kept them up as best we could. But we're not, the writing was on the wall. They were going to rip them up. They weren't going to spend any money on them.
Okay.
So,
we have a few more comments.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom?
Tom Andreas, 6 Elm Road, Pompton Plains, and I also happen to be chair of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Dwight made a few statements that I just want to set the record straight. At the last Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting, I know Peter invited a lot of baseball, softball people to that meeting, and he told me ahead of time, this is probably going to be a big meeting, so we got to get, make sure you're ready for it. So probably about a half hour before the meeting, I arranged all the tables for the members in a nice circle shape, put lots of audience chairs out, all set. We were going to hash everything out and work on it. One parent showed up with his daughter. That was it. So if that's the kind of involvement you guys had before, I can understand why there's problems. You know, they invite you in, they tell you to come, they tell you to say something, you gotta say something.
Can I address you?
Yes.
Wait. No.
No, it's up to the
No
mayor.
crosstalk. No, we can't, no crosstalk.
All right, but that's what I was told. Peter invited a lot of people. We got ready for a big meeting to hash this out. Nothing. One dad with his daughter. And we worked with that dad. Is Brian here?
That's okay.
No, but we worked with him as much as possible, you know, but there was nobody there.
Point well taken, because that's why we have our advisory committees, because they are the pulse for the council of what's going on out there. And if we don't hear from our committees, we have over, 15, 20 committees, different things going on in commissions, and council relies on them.
And we would have been glad to work on that. We were all set to help and try and smooth it out. And it's getting later now, and the urgency is getting more and more, so it's getting to be more of a problem.
We'll do some backtracking, we'll do some triage, we'll come up with something.
Understand, but I wish it didn't get to this.
Well, we are where we are. We are where we are.
All right, Kathy, I just want to make a comment. First off, I just want everybody out there to understand that Pete does not work for the council. Pete works for Dave Holberg. So anything we're going to do, we're going to lean on Dave Holberg to get it done. So I really don't want to use Pete's name here anymore.
Right.
We'll address the township manager. I think it's not fair what we're doing. I think that my personal opinion, as Ryan said, they're not destroying the fields. It's our neglect of the fields that are destroying the fields. So I hope we come up with a resolution. Hope we come up with a solution relatively quickly, because it is going to be April.
April Day.
April. And
I'm sure we will.
I think we need to give some direction to the township manager who works for us, so that he can give direction to the Parks and Rec director. Go ahead, give him direction.
I think that we should hear everybody out, so that Dave understands. I think that Mr. Holberg needs fairly to hear from everybody who wants to talk.
Are we going to talk about the skateboard park, and should I do that now?
That's up to you.
Now I'm switching it from Parks and Rec Advisory Chair to just regular citizen, Tom Andrea, 6 Elm Road.
Citizen?
Yes.
I think I've seen him around.
I've seen him around.
I think it's going to be discussed whether or not you should have a resolution tonight supporting the skateboard park with the money that was set aside in last year's budget, and hoping they can raise the additional huge amount of money of $250,000 to bring a skateboard park to town. I know with the lots of things volunteers and committees and boards do in town, you look for matching donations, or the groups look for matching donations. Part of it comes from the town, part of it comes from an outside organization. Now, the ratio 150,000 to 250,000 is huge. So I look at it, the town could get a $400,000 skateboard park for the bargain price of $150,000 if the skateboard park group can raise that money, which is going to be hard. But if they're willing to do that, it sounds to me like a bargain for the township. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're not fast enough, man. You got to run around here.
That's what happens when you sit on the side.
Elaine Sickles, 21 Hilton Street, Pequannock.
Could you stand up?
That's not nice.
I want to be like one of those little 12-year-old girls playing on Washington One again. Back in 2007, I coached that all-star team, and we played on Washington One. And those girls still talk about winning on Washington One and playing on that field. You can't take that away from them. You know, this is what these girls, look at them. This is what they want to play for, you know. And then they go to the middle school and they go to the high school. We have a great program. Don't take that tournament and regular play on Washington One away from them. You know, I mean, I should have brought pictures of my girls playing. Those are the memories. That's what you want. You want these kids to have great memories. They have them on Washington 1, 2, 3, Hillview. But to play on one.
We hear you. And we're going to come up with a solution.
You know, I mean, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
You know? That's what you have to remember. It's for the kids. Who cares? Like, let them play. It's a game. It's a game. Fix the grass at the end of the season, right?
We know time is of the essence.
Washington won when you're a kid and a girl.
Right.
I mean, it's like Yankee Stadium. It is just awesome to walk on that field.
And another thing for Washington 1, my son was 12 when Mr. Trost said, I want Cubbies on Washington 1 in that dugout. My son at 12 went to all these parents and said, can you donate this, can you donate that? My son built those Cubbies. That's how proud he is of that field. So they're proud of that place that they call Little.
And they should be.
And they should be.
And they should be.
Because I know I'm proud of the hours that I put in. It's these guys, come on.
Thank you.
Let's think about that and let everyone play on Field 1, just not the boys.
You better hurry up, Dan. Sure.
Yeah, we're approaching 30 minutes.
Dan Zahner, 8 Leland Ave, Pompton Plains. Elaine kind of stole my thunder, but I think the Yankee Stadium is a perfect analogy, and I'm a Met fan. But no any other fan can deny that Yankee Stadium is Yankee Stadium. And Field 1 has been an icon of this town for 50 years. Thanks to these guys for putting it up. The other towns marvel. They come to play at our fields. You go to other towns, nothing's the same. And the idea of building 2 separate premier fields, you still can't, you can have Citi Field, but it's not Yankee Stadium. So build 2 premier fields, cut down on overuse on the fields, but don't segregate it to baseball, softball. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Kyle? We got one over here. Just 1 minute right here.
Come on up, Rocco. Stand next to her, so you're next.
Yeah.
Kyle Russell, 6 Walnut Ave, Pompton Plains. Before I get into the skate park, I do want to say that, Catherine, you had stated that they did it for Little League. They didn't do it for Little League. They did it for Pequannock. Mm-hmm. They really did. It was for all of us. With regards to the skate park, I do want to put in our signatures that we have signed. And Catherine, I know you said you didn't hear it, so I'll read it. We, the taxpayers of Pequannock, are opposed to the taxpayer-funded construction of a skate park in Pequannock Township. We do not believe it is the civic nor financial responsibility of the municipal government to provide a recreational facility for every sport, hobby, or activity in which citizens participate. We feel this expenditure is fiscally irresponsible and not in the best interest of the town. The proposed park is approximately 6,400 square feet of non-solid, non-porous poured concrete within a 14,000 square foot skate park complex located in the Washington Park area flood zone. The cost of this park is $400,000 plus the cost of fencing, lighting, bathroom security, maintenance, utilities, etc. The Pequannock Township Flood Committee has advised they do not support the park at this location. We currently have over 550 signatures. It is our understanding that we need 1,203 signatures to get this on the ballot in November, which we will consider doing if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. You can hand that, Carol.
Did you make copies of it?
I just did the one, and I also did all the comments that they had written. A lot of people wrote.
Do you have copies of that?
It's online.
We have our own copies, but
Okay,
yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Your name and address.
Rocco Minervini, 25 May Avenue, Pompton Plains. I want those 4 girls to stand up over there.
Come on, ladies.
Anybody? Anyone else? Anyone else? Stand up in the back. Look at the size of these girls. What are they tearing up? I don't mean to sound rude. Look at them. Secondly, Field 3, Dave, is a mess. When we were, last year, I was on the field every day with Coach Zahner, Coach Arnold, Jack, cleaning it. It was, you couldn't play on it.
So what does it look like this year? Have you been on it?
I have not been on the field because it's been covered with snow. And there's a big sign, do not trespass. So I'm staying off.
I'm sure it was in disrepair last year if we put $16,000 into it to improve it.
2 years ago, 10U All-Stars. They went very far, very exciting. They played on that field. And this woman is crying. Let me tell you how choked up we were. a lot of the parents. Coach Arnold and his staff did an awesome job. And you were the mayor at the time, remember?
Yep.
You had some Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts up here earlier tonight. After that was over, you were handing out certificates to that All-Star team. Wasn't that fun?
Yep.
It was awesome, right?
Absolutely.
Let's do it for the girls and keep them on the field. Thank you.
Thank you. One more, and that's it, and then we're going to move on.
Good evening, Todd Arnold, 8 Benjamin Place. First of all, I want to thank Melissa for understanding what the real issue is. Unique situation. I coach softball with my daughter for both Little League and also travel, and I also have a 8-year-old son who plays. And it's very hard for me to go home to tell my daughter that she has to sit under a blue tarp, not have any place to hang their bag, while my son goes to the other field who's got his own personal dugout, a hook. He's under concrete from the elements, and we put our daughters under some blue tarp. So the real issue here is what's fair. You have said this is not gender. This is the true case of what it is right now. You've selected the boys' team to get a premier field, and the girls are left. So it is a gender issue. It may not have been the intent of the township, but that is exactly what is going on right now. There's a very easy solution to this. Continue to do what we've done for 40 years and play both boys and girls. We do not build a gym in this town and say it's only for boys to play. The field dimensions are almost identical from baseball to softball with regards to the mound. That's the only difference. There's no safety issue here. We've heard several different things, including there's a warranty issue. We have not heard anything about that. And to the point about the advisory committee, we found out about that meeting the day of the meeting. So like most of us, we all have careers. So it's very difficult for us on the day of a meeting to try to get our kids home from CCD, from school, and then get to a meeting. So we're willing to talk to this person, but as a council, can you please tell us how we get in touch with him?
Well, what we'll do is we are going to have the township manager revisit with his director, and we will come to a very favorable solution, I'm sure, for everyone.
In other words, we'll lean on this guy, and he'll have to lean on
And
this
if
guy.
we need another meeting to get you all together, they'll do that.
We hear you loud and clear.
Opening day is like
I know.
soon.
Gotta
They'll
do
come up
it
with something.
almost immediately, guys.
It'll be handled. It won't be long. I
Thank you for
promise
your time.
I promise you. At this time, we have reached 30 minutes of public comment. As previously noted, an additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening, so next on the agenda is the introductions of ordinances. Ms. Marsh.
The first ordinance for consideration this evening is ordinance number 2018-02, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits.
Thank you, guys.
And to establish a cap bank in accordance with NJSA 40A:40-4-4514.
Mr. Holberg.
All right, this is the ordinance that we do every year prior to budget introduction. While it does two things. It allows us to exceed the appropriation cap, but the real benefit to it is it allows us to bank our excess cap for up to 3 years. We have never actually gone up to our appropriation cap, so we don't use that part of it, but it is very beneficial in terms of long-range planning to bank our available cap. So we introduce this ordinance now before we introduce the budget to meet the state's requirements.
Okay. Are there any comments from council?
No, we do this every year.
That's true. Nothing down there?
We do it every year, and it's just in case.
Okay. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2018-02.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mrs. Lawrence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda for introduction is ordinance 2018-03. Ms. Marsh?
Ordinance number 2018-03 is an ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation under NJSA 40A:4-53 for preparation of a revision and codification of ordinances in and by the Township of Pequannock and the County of Morris, New Jersey.
Mr. Holberg.
In English, please.
I was thinking, that makes perfect sense.
I'll
doesn't it?
try. So 1803, 04, and 05 are all special emergency appropriations. These are permitted under statute to fund things that municipalities do that we only do every 10 or 12 or 15 years. In this case, 03 is for codification, which takes all of our ordinances, updates them, and recodifies our code book so that there's no inconsistencies. Because over time, as you pass ordinances and things become out of sequence, out of number, what we found in a couple cases is that we have multiple parts of our code that say slightly different things. This process will go through and make sure that everything is in sync with each other.
Rather than doing them one by one.
Correct. So let me just speak to 04 and 05 as well. 2018-04 is special emergency for a master plan update, which is something we've talked about for some time. And then 05 is for a future revaluation. All of these things allow us to appropriate the money. It stays on our books until we use it, and then we pay these off over 5 years. In this case, as part of our budget process, because we had some extra revenues come into our budget last year, we're going to fully fund each of these things until the township needs to do them. In the case of the revaluation, that probably won't occur until 2022 or 2023. However, the codification master plan are things that should be done sooner rather than later.
And it's a really prudent way to budget.
Right. It will have no impact on our future budget at all, and because we're using a one-time revenue to offset these essentially one-time expenses, there's no impact on tax rate.
Okay. Are there any comments from council?
No, I was just going to say, I actually looked up that code, the 4045, and it actually states...
It lists about 8 different things that were...
Right, and these actually fall right into those lists, because when I first looked at it, I wasn't sure if it was just because we weren't planning that initially in the regular budget, but it's because for a future project that you said that you do every 10 or 15 years.
And these very specific projects are permitted to be done this way.
Right, and I saw those listed, so, and I just wasn't sure on the reevaluation when we were planning on doing that, but you answered that question. That would be down the line.
Right.
Could that be done sooner, Dave, if it had to be?
If it had to be.
It could be. Once we have the money, it can be done anytime.
Money's going to be in
this was
a month or two, right?
If you don't want to do it at the height of the month.
No, I know that, but
part of our long-term planning in terms of the settlement of some, large tax appeals that we
How long is it good for? Like, if you pass it now, do you have to use it?
This stays as a spending reserve until it's used.
Okay.
So it does not expire until action is taken to cancel it or use it.
Okay.
Everybody else good?
Yep.
Okay, is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Which ordinance?
We're doing 03.
Okay.
So just 03, not 04, 05?
Right.
No, we're just doing, we have to do them separately.
All right, I'll make the motion for ordinance number 2018-03.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda for introduction is ordinance 2018-04. Ms. Marsh?
Ordinance number 2018-04 is an ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation under NJSA 40A:4-53 for engagement of a special consultant or consultants for the preparation of a master plan in order to update the plan in accordance with law in and by the Township of Pequannock and the County of Morris, New Jersey.
Now, Mr. Holberg just explained all this to us. Does anybody have any further comments?
Nope.
Okay, is there a motion to introduce this?
I'll make a motion to introduce 2018-04.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda for introduction is ordinance 2018-05. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2018-05 is an ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation under NJSA 4EA:4-53 for preparation and execution of a revaluation of real property and an update thereto in and by the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, New Jersey.
Okay, same thing. No comments? Any comments? No. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number 2018-05.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda for introduction is ordinance 2018-06. Ms. Marsh?
Ordinance number 2018-06 is an ordinance amending Chapter 189 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock and increasing the permitted duration for the use of temporary storage units on properties subject to flood elevation.
Mr. Holmberg, can you please explain?
Sure. So as we're going through the process of working with homeowners who are going to elevate their homes with the FEMA grants, we run into various hurdles. Some of them are large, some of them are small. When we can, we attempt to overcome the hurdle. In this case, our ordinance limits the use of temporary storage units at 60 days, which is probably not enough time for those people who need them to take all the stuff out of their home, temporarily store it on site, have the home elevated, and then take the stuff back out. So in order to make this not a hurdle for those grant homeowners, we're suggesting that we pass this ordinance, which will have to go to planning board if you introduce it, for their comment, to take out the time frame entirely in the case when it's a temporary storage unit for a home elevation.
Okay.
All right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just going to say.
Any comments?
Makes sense.
No, but I understand why we had to do it. So.
Okay. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion to
ahead.
introduce ordinance 2018-06.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda item is resolutions. Ms. Marsh?
Beginning with Resolution R 2018-69, which is governing body certification of compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's enforcement guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records in employment decisions under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. R 2018-70, adopting an extended 2018 temporary budget, 2018-71, approving introduction of the 2018 municipal budget, 2018-72, authorizing release of designated escrow deposits, 2018-73, authorizing purchases from the Pequannock Township Open Space, Recreation, Farmland, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund, and R 2018-74, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the March 23rd, 2018 bill list.
Okay. Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
No. Nope.
No? None down there?
Nope.
No, I know we got no, not on this. Nope.
Okay.
Mr. Holmberg, do you want a separate vote on the budget?
Yes, please.
Oh.
Do you want to set the what?
There's no reason not to approve all the others first, though, right?
As long as they're done first, that's right.
So you want 69 and 72 to 73, 74 first?
We have to do 69 first.
So just 69 or?
Can we do all of the resolutions prior to the introduction of the municipal budget?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So not so. I'll make.
Okay, Ryan, you do the motion.
Write the instructions down?
I'll make a motion to approve resolutions R 2018-69, -70, -71, -73, -74.
Was there a second?
71.
Yeah, you said 71, you blew it. You didn't write down.
Oh, I put the line under the wrong number.
You blew
Let me
it.
do it
fired.
again. Now I got to do over. I'll make a motion to approve resolution R 2018-69, 70, 72, 73, and 74.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Okay. Now, is there a motion for?
I'll make a motion to approve R 2018-71.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Okay. Next on the agenda is items for discussion. So everybody has their copy of the resolution. Is that a yes?
Yep.
Okay. I guess we'll start down with you, Councilman Paul.
Bob, what exactly is this binding us to?
Yeah, it's really not binding us to much of anything. The truth be told, familiar enough.
Okay.
Familiar enough
You wrote
with it. Yeah, I did. When we talk about the issue of expenditures of money, there's going to have to be a vote to actually expend that money. Regardless of what opinion you all express today, when the time comes to award a contract and spend the money, whoever sits up here at that time is going to have to get involved in that issue yet again. So it's more of a statement of intent than it is something that binds us. The same thing really with the location. The time is going to come when a decision has to be made to start construction and start building. Up until that time, the council controls property and can always decide that that's not a good idea.
Things could happen.
So things can happen. So what I think my understanding of the purpose of it was to express an intent right now to help in terms of giving the community, giving people out there an expression of where the council sits today. But yeah, it is not going to be binding, and there's nothing we can do today to bind ourselves to these decisions. It's just not going to, we're not going to be able to do that.
All right, because I'm still not happy about the location, because it has a location in here. I also have a question of, do we put a time frame in of how long they have to fundraise? And what is the difference between this and a letter stating that the town council has put $150,000 in the 2017 budget for the skate park?
Probably not much difference, to be honest with you. Both are different ways of expressing really the same thing.
Who have we done resolutions for like this in the past for fundraising?
Probably not.
Hello?
Well, I don't think we've had as much discussion. Like, I mean, if you talk about, you talk about other organizations who are, much older, I don't think there's any kind of MOUs with them, but yet we have an MOU like with the Historic Society. There's a lot of things that we haven't done in the past formally, and you can see why we got into some heated arguments tonight about who owns what and who does what. So I think always putting something in writing is helpful, because through time, people remember things differently. And like Mr. Oostdike said, when different people may sit up here, there's no record of what was said. The way we do business is through resolutions and through ordinances. When we send something to anybody, we always do a resolution. We don't send letters.
The purpose of the resolution or letter is to help with fundraising.
Correct.
I would much rather see a letter rather than a resolution.
And that would be my only question is, the question should really be, do they really need the resolution to fundraise? And I don't think they do. So.
Well, I don't know if you've been any part of the fundraising or been to any of their committees, but maybe you want to ask some of them like what they've been asked on their applications.
They definitely need something stating that we have put X amount of dollars towards this, because we have to have buy-in for anyone to make a donation.
Correct.
The other problem I keep saying is we have not done a resolution for any other volunteer group or fundraising group ever.
That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have or done it. I don't think this council's done anything with anybody as anything like this. And yeah, you're paving new ground, but nobody's ever tried to raise big money on their own through corporate sponsorship either. I mean, this is what the PSA is telling us they need. I mean, if you want them to come up here or not, just to say, or if they have to show you proof, I don't know what it is. that you want, that they say they need this. I mean, I know they're dealing with banks and Stop and Shops and things like that, and they're filling out applications, and this is what they say they need. I don't think that this is something odd. I mean, I think that this is something that, is done. I mean...
I think at the end of the day, this is
odd.
going to carry much more weight when you're talking to people to invest. I don't mean the general public, I mean banks or actual...
big organizations.
Big organizations. This is definitely going to carry more weight than just a letterhead, number one. Number two, we want all of our organizations to be successful. Whether it's the Martin Berry House, we made an investment in there, we want that to be successful. We want Little League to be successful. I think we want this to be successful. And as what Bob was saying, at the end of the day, when it comes down to actually executing on this, we still have to sit here and pass, whether it was $150,000 or whether it's the location or anything. We have to sit here and we actually have to pass that. So I think this is more of a document that gives them the ability to be successful.
Also, what it is I think Tom Andrea brought up a really good point. I mean, even if they're still raising 60% of this, it will be an asset. It will be owned by the township. It will be an asset of the township. And if we're asking volunteers to raise 60% to own something for the township, I think supporting them in any way they can to help them fundraise rather than strap them so they can't is in essence killing the project without saying you're killing the project. So I'm in full support of giving them the resolution. The attorneys told us that it's non-binding anyway until we get to, that, even with the capital budget when we introduce it, nothing is done until you pass the ordinance, so.
Okay, I'll vote no.
My only other statement that I'm going to say about the resolution is, I know you're saying it's not binding, but when you read the title and you read the resolution, you have to be 100% invest, at the time that you're doing the resolution, be 100% vested into this. And when I read, I've said before, that I'm still not convinced Washington Park is the right place. Unfortunately, I'm not convinced, and I can be convinced if I'm given the right information.
Well, what do you think is wrong with Washington Park?
I just think it's going to either turn more into a money pit because we're going to have issues with the soil once they put the shovel in the ground. I could be wrong.
Well, you saw all the locations. Where do you think what do you think was a better location?
I don't know where the exact location should be. I mean, when this project started, it was a smaller scale project, and it's grown so big over the years.
That's not true, though. That's not true, Melissa. We put in $150,000 last year.
Right.
We knew that it most likely was going to double.
Yeah.
We figured we'd put half in. Those were the discussions that we had
last year. I'm talking about
years those were the discussions that we had. This group here was a full commitment of putting that $150,000 in the budget.
Rich, would you be okay with a letter?
Well, I'm not happy about a resolution, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't have to have a reason.
Yeah, you do. That's your responsibility as a councilman.
Yeah, my responsibility is I don't like it, I vote no. That's the reason.
That's not
Don't tell me I need a reason. I don't need a reason.
Well,
even though we respect what the lawyer says,
I am not happy with doing a resolution.
Why though? I want to understand.
I think they should fundraise, and we should give them a letter, and there doesn't have to be a time limit on it. I mean,
I don't think there has to be a time limit.
I think a skateboard park, would be great.
I think a letter saying the same thing?
Eventually, but we got to figure out if it's going in the right place, and we need to, I wish we had vetted out all the other things that we talked about, not just the location and design. All the other things, how it's going to be, hours of usage. And
you don't do that if you decide to build the park,
I would have liked to see that.
But back, none of us were here. I don't know who was here when Little League got started, 52 years ago, they said? And they started at a grassroots, just like these people are grassroots. And who knows where they'll be 50 years from now. But you got to give them some support. If they want to fundraise 60% of it and give the town a park, why wouldn't you support them?
I think we do support.
The answer's no.
No, I asked a question. Well, this is on for discussion. This isn't a vote. This is for, well, yeah, I think you do.
I'm telling you what I'm doing.
What kind of response is that, though?
It's my response.
This is for discussion, and I think.
It's not having a discussion. That's not
I would be okay with a letter.
That's not a discussion.
I'd be okay with a letter.
But it depends what the letter said. I mean, I'm not so sure I want it at once.
Well, I don't think we should kick the can down anymore. I think we should decide if you're going to do a letter, if you want to do a letter with this wording in it, it'd be the same thing, you know? I don't know why we wouldn't do a resolution.
I can't do it because of the location, so I would have to feel comfortable with everything that it says today to make me want to say it.
And what do you think's wrong with that location?
I'm not convinced that it should go there.
I mean, you have sat here saying that with any project, we don't ever know what's going to happen until you put the shovel in the ground and what's in there.
Right.
You know that when we do sewers, that we don't know what's going to happen until we put the shovel in the ground.
We bought the property next to it, so houses wouldn't be put there.
Because we were going to build a community center there. That's what was decided. That's what was talked about.
We did talk about that. But
That is what was decided when we spent that $900,000 on that piece of property.
I thought we bought that property to keep the houses from being built and to keep our emergency services from going into harm's way.
No.
Like we did for the Pequannock River.
No, that was part of the reason.
I think there was also a thought about the community center, but that didn't get approved either, so.
Well, that wasn't even, thought about. That was for the future. That was to be able to have that property for a community center. Which, who knows, maybe it still will be.
On stilts.
Oh, it's a big piece of, hey, we got a castle out there on stilts.
If you think you have people up in arms over a 6,500 square foot skateboard park, wait till you tell me you want to put a community center there.
Oh, this counts. That's stilts. I think we should approve it. I think that there's no reason, there's no meat in it. It gives them everything they need to fundraise. If you don't approve it, you're strapping them. So in essence, you're killing the project. Which means you're not supporting.
I will talk to a friend of mine that's a professional fundraiser and see if she feels that there's any difference between a resolution or a letter from the town stating that we are putting $150,000 towards a project. And
why wouldn't you do a resolution?
I think the main reason is because, number one, not that we shouldn't do things differently, but we've never done it before, and
a lot of things we haven't done before.
And I think the reason this was put forward initially is because we thought it was binding. But now we're being told that it's not, so now
You
we're
know
like,
that
well,
no
why not?
capital project is binding until we approve the money for the ordinance to put it through. Until it all goes out to bid, nothing happens until that's done.
And like I said, I would have to support what it says, and I'm just not there yet.
what happens, Bob, to the money? Say they make $60,000 and it falls flat. What happens to the money?
Which part of the money? The money they raise?
Yes, the $60,000.
Well, I presume if they're going to be successful, is they're going to raise it as a not-for-profit corporation. Because if you don't do that and you don't get IRS approval,
So they are official
501c3.
Okay.
When you form as that, you need to put in your formation documents what happens in the event that your organization ceases to exist. And most organizations, I don't know what they're say something to the effect of they will donate it to a similar organization or for a similar purpose. And that's a fundraising issue they have.
Okay, so do you think that some people will make donations because of the town affiliation?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Dave. I mean, I think that people can have all different kinds of motivations and look for different things.
Well, we have executive board members here. Why don't we ask them what they are up against when they're doing these applications? And Steve or Jordan, you're both, I believe you're both on that executive board.
What executive board?
They're nonprofit.
Oh, they're nonprofit.
Stephen Connolly, 44 Duncan. So we have been asked what the buy-in from the town is, and they either ask for, usually, if there is an ordinance passed, location is also No, I said ordinance. I'm not sure if it's ordinance or resolution offhand, but I think it would be a resolution. Some kind of buy-in. Also, location is definitely an issue when they ask. So those two things. And when we look at it, yeah, maybe a letter would help. But, like, again, how binding is that? What is that saying? But does it say the location? You know, they need to know that what they're putting their money into is going to happen.
Where it's going.
Where it's going. What's the buy-in from the town? So, I mean, right now, it's like this. Like, just give us a yes or no.
I would imagine, Steve, that they also want to see what it's going to look like.
Yes.
And
you'd have to approve the design.
See, that's what's in here too, is the design.
I would think number one and number two would be how much the town is committed and what am I donating to? Show me.
Yes.
Show me what you're donating.
And the design would need to be approved and to go forward with the rest of the permitting.
And the way we approve designs is through resolutions. That's how council operates as a body. That's how we operate as a body. That's what we do.
So approve the resolution. Approve the design. Give us something. I have a question, if I can ask.
Sure.
I just want to know, Rich won't, everyone, like, I got a straight answer from everybody except for Rich.
I don't believe in a skate park.
What?
I don't believe in a skate park.
Okay, so that's your straight up answer?
Straight up
answer. You donated your trucks to help move the granite. Why?
Correct.
Why?
Because at that time I thought it was a good idea for the kids, but after talking to a bunch of residents, I've changed my mind.
So, okay, next question is, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but we want answers. You also told us you would donate yourself. This was probably a month ago.
I think that was a little bit longer than a month ago. If you'd like to get that email, I would greatly appreciate it. I think it was a text message.
No, we're in your kitchen.
Oh, you were in my kitchen?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You knocked on my door. Please, no, I don't support it. I would like to take the $150,000 and put it towards baseball fields.
Okay. Wow. You look very angry. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not angry. I'm really not. This has been going on way too long.
Okay. I just want to get a clear answer because people want to know.
I'm not in
and it's
favor of it.
Public information. So.
I'm not in favor of it.
Okay, so now we know your stance. That's my end of questions. Is there any other questions you have?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Steve?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we should approve the resolution. I think we should support them. We support all the kids here. We support the Little League. We support the softball. We want to support teens. We want to support people to do things that are active and out and about. I see no reason to kill this project. I see no reason not to do the resolution. On the advice of our attorney, it's not binding.
But it does give them something that they can go to corporations with.
Yes, it does.
That's tangible.
Well, let's
Steve, can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
So what Bob said is you have to have, what is it, a statement, Bob?
Yeah, there'll be a statement as to what happened.
So do you have that statement?
We do.
Yeah.
A statement for our funds?
Yes.
So say you raise $60,000 and that's it. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a statement to where it's going?
Yes, it'll go to another skateboard organization.
Is there a time limit to that? No.
Do I? No, if we were to dissolve and,
all right,
because you have to, state that, what are you going to do with it? So if we were to dissolve, yes, it would go toward another skate park or skateboard organization. I mean, there's plenty of that we know of, so.
That's part of them being incorporated,
Yeah.
imagined by the IRS. That was probably was a requirement.
I don't recall if it was a requirement when applying. Yeah,
IRS.
so maybe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might have been applying for it, not for the first part. Yeah, for the 501c3 application.
So I'll go back to ask you then, Bob. So if residents donate towards this,
right,
and it doesn't happen,
Right.
And their money goes to
a different
Bergen County or something. I guess as long as it's in their statement, but you don't know what their statement is when you make a donation.
Well, you can if you want. It's a public record what it is. I'm sure that they'd be, candid about what it says, because it's an open...
I mean, if someone asked, I'm sure they would have to...
Sure.
They would have to say.
Sure. And it would have to be another non-for-profit, too. That's
Yes,
part of
it
the
is.
IRS
Yeah, absolutely.
requirement.
Yes.
Just to narrow it, it has to be another
Yep.
non-for-profit organized for charitable purposes.
Yes.
But it's something that is not brought in the forefront of...
Doesn't have to be, no. Nope.
But should it be?
You thinking of giving a big sum, Dave?
No, but I think
Maybe,
the concern is...
maybe we'll default it.
But I think that's your concern, is
do
that
have a lottery
most
ticket
people
in my
will want to
pocket.
donate, but then if it doesn't go to that...
Well, that's not up to the council. We're not on the hook for what they do. That's what they do. I mean, the thing is to support them so that they can work on their 60%.
And I know they put so much time into this. I mean, I'd love to see them do it.
We're going to keep
give them a
going.
chance.
The problem is, I feel like I know we've been talking about it for a long time. I wasn't involved in all those meetings, but I just feel like we didn't vet the location enough, or the scope of the project got too big, or it's not the right location, and that's my
Well,
problem.
your attorney told you tonight that it's not binding.
So let me ask you another question, a hypothetical question, Steve. Say 3 years down the road, you reach the $250,000 goal, and another location comes up.
How would another location come up?
Who knows?
We're going to take over Riverdale.
A couple of houses burned down and you got a new park? I don't know. What's the follow-up to that?
Well,
Would there be a consideration of, are you dead set on Washington Park?
Washington Park is what was recommended by the Parks and Rec, and we had 3 different locations that we recommended as well. So we felt that was, a doable location as well. So am I dead set on it? No.
So if the perfect location...
I'm talking on my personal, representing the committee or the association, I'm sure it's the same. What we did like about that location, and if I could repeat again, is that it's centrally located, it's right off of the bike path, it has easy access from the town, it's not hidden away in the back corners of the town, and it's accessible, or rather visible.
See, the location, we voted on the location, and it was so they could do the design. But I don't think that, I'm not tied to Washington Park either. The ideal location was really back here. That's your number 1 location, but the first aid squad didn't. So I think that's still something we could bat around. But I think we need to leave it in there so that they can fundraise, and we can work on...
We have the final say on location.
Of course we do.
So.
Of course we do. And like you said, other things could come up. Other properties could become available. Who knows?
When talking to Brad, that design can be put anywhere that has, it could fit, as long as there's the 8-foot border from the park to the fence.
Right, and it's not on a rocky hill or something crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're not like, has to be Washington, but that's what came about.
I know, that's what came about.
Yeah.
Because nobody else wanted it in the other locations, basically.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Well, I don't know if it was that, but it was just like other things that,
Hurdles.
You had to kind of weigh, like the pros and cons of each.
Right.
So, that's what we came up with.
Yeah, it's kind of how we got where we are.
So do we have to make a decision tonight if we're going?
Well, I'd like to give it a number, and I'd like to take it to a vote. They've worked for over 2 years. I think they really want to start raising money, and every time they fill out an application, they get stopped. So I think it's time to, put up or shut up. It's time to take it to a vote or kill the project, and
I don't want to.
Whatever the next.
I don't want to kill the project.
Well, they can't move forward, and it's not binding. Your attorney's telling you that, Unless you don't believe Bob, you want to ask another attorney, but.
Dave said he would ask somebody he knew, maybe the letter would work, or else we change the language a little bit to say potential locations or whatever. I don't know.
Can it say potential? Would that be enough? I don't know.
I don't think the location is a big deal because we have to approve the
Then
final
take it out.
location anyway, so.
Yeah. There is one error on it about the Skate Park Advisory Committee. It's 2015 instead of 2016. They've been in operation a long time. They've been working a lot of volunteer hours. And like I said, they're grassroots, just like your Little League was 50
That's the
years
ad
ago.
hoc committee that we formed?
Instead of
2015?
Washington Park, can we put something like in the township of Pequannock?
Of course, this is just a resolution which expresses
There you go.
an opinion.
In the township of Pequannock.
Yeah, how about that?
That's where it's located.
All right, I'm for that.
you're not
because
tied to a very
this way, if
specific
another
location.
location comes up where something, other... How's that? If we scratch off of that and put it in Township of Pequannock?
Well, we can
Would that help you,
make
Melissa?
some changes and we could work on it, but
Well, I would like to put it to a vote tonight. I think there's no more working on it.
I'm not
These are the
ready.
words by the attorney. I mean, what words would you change on here, Melissa? What words don't you like?
Definitely the location.
Well, we can cross that out and put Township of Pequannock. In the Township of Pequannock. And change the advisory committee to 2015 instead of 2016. The first paragraph just talks about the advisory committee.
I'd still want to
The second one just talks about pillar design.
approve it, though.
And then it just talks about the fiscal impact, it talks about the location, which we've changed. And then it says that basically the crux of it is that it will give them, a skate park provide the balance necessary to be raised through private donations. It gives them the chance to move forward.
I don't know. I
Well, you don't have to agree. Only three of us have to agree.
No, I
Dave-
know, but
Dave,
I'm
are you
just-
willing to at least put this forward and let them move forward? And then we don't have to talk about this for a long
I'm
time.
not really comfortable with the resolution. I'd rather it be a letter if we're going to do something to support their fundraising. And
I don't think a letter has enough meat to it.
I have to agree with that.
We do business by resolution. We've never done business by letter. When we send something up to the county, when we send something to the governor, we send it by resolution. We do everything by resolution. This council does business by resolution or ordinance. We don't do it by letter. We don't do anything by letter. That's not how the council operates.
I wasn't ready to vote on it. We were just doing it as a discussion item on that.
Are you ready, Dave?
Favor.
We don't have to talk about the skate park until they raise the 60%.
You have to also have the buy-in that you're definitely committed to the 150, no matter what the cost, right? And that you're committed to a concrete skateboard park.
You just approved introducing the budget with the 150 in there.
Yeah, but no, it wasn't necessarily going towards this.
Yeah, because that's
It's
exactly...
allocated it.
And exactly what this is. That's the same thing. It's allocated.
No, the words say something different when I read it. What's your feeling?
I'll make a phone call
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'm sure I
Let's
can get a hold of the person.
Let's just do a little bit more research before we pass anything. I'm not ready to, I mean, if you're going to make me vote now, I'm going to vote no. If you want to...
I'm not going to make you do anything. I don't think a letter is enough. I really don't think a letter, if you're one person, it's going to be one who deals with a few organizations, who doesn't deal with, I don't know what they donate to. I don't know if they deal with this type of thing or not. Is that person going to offer their services to this organization and say that the letter's going to be enough?
I don't know. That's what we don't know, So you know somebody that does this, you're going to make some cost for them?
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything on this? Otherwise, I think we should move on.
I'll have an answer by Thursday, what she says, so.
And what if she says that a resolution would be the better thing? Will you support it then?
There's a good chance that I would.
51, 90?
There's a 50-50 chance.
You're basically killing the project, all you guys. You know that's what you're doing.
We're not trying to kill it.
Yes, you are. When you were tying their hands so they can't fundraise, you are killing the project.
I don't want to do that.
You are killing the project. So when you say that you won't, at least Councilman Phelan is forthright and says it. You know, but you're just sitting on
So
the fence.
if this person comes back and says, in her
Why are we-
professional opinion, she's been a fundraiser for 15 to 20 years.
She's raised millions of dollars.
She works for a huge nonprofit organization. I believe it's juvenile diabetes or something to do with diabetes. And she's in charge of their fundraising.
And she's raised millions of dollars for skate
So
parks.
if she says a letter is something that corporations would be fine with,
Then we do the letter.
we do a letter.
And if she says no?
If she says no, then I will have to discuss it, with myself.
Me, myself, and I.
And what are you going to say when Councilman Cole says that she says
No.
we need a resolution? Then what is your...
It's the same thing. I mean, if a letter will do it, look.
What if she says the letter doesn't?
These people put a lot of time into it. If they can fundraise and they can get people to donate money with a letter, then more the power to them.
And what if he says the letter is no good? What if he says his friend...
Well, then it depends exactly what this resolution says, because, again...
Well, what if it says just in the town center of Pequannock and not Washington Park?
Then I might be okay with that, but let's see what the experts say.
Well, tonight's the item for discussion.
Right. but
So
we
which
don't
one would you
have
be?
I don't know.
You don't
But I'd
know.
like to talk to a couple more people about it, too.
I'm sorry, it was the Arthritis Foundation
Oh,
for the
okay.
for the Northeast regions. Close.
I'd like to have some more conversations, not only with myself, but with some of the members of, with members of our town, and, people in the town, and, get some more pulse on the community, and...
So Dave will make the call, Bob will change the wording to in the township of
I'm not
Pequannock,
making the decision
Right.
all by myself.
and we can put it on the next agenda. Simple?
That's fine.
Sounds good. Move along.
Do you want any wording changed on there, Ryan?
The township of Pequannock, I'm good with that, because that it's not going to pigeonhole us into any specific place if something else, if the perfect location comes up, great.
Are we putting it on the next agenda for discussion?
What's that?
Are we putting it on the next agenda for discussion?
I won't be here, so you can.
Okay.
So wait a minute, you're not going to be at the next council meeting?
No, I'll be in San Diego. You'll be here. So you can talk to yourself and come up with an answer.
Two Tuesdays.
So what happens if it's 2-2?
Then you don't get to go home until you have a...
What I would
can't
suggest
leave.
is you put it not for the next meeting, but the following meeting when there's 5 people here.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Okay, don't do it when there's 4, do it when there's 5.
That won't be fair.
I agree.
Okay, there's another item for discussion. It was the League of Municipalities Scholarship Competition.
Yes.
And very sadly to say, Pequannock must be a rich town, even though they can't pay for a skate park, because we only had one application. So,
Well, guess what? Know about this?
Yeah, they got...
hey, it's very sad. People don't need the
It would be
money.
up to the schools, but...
The application that came in was excellent, and that, I imagine we don't have to have a committee to decide which one's going to move forward.
Yeah, I did read it. It was an excellent
Yeah.
application.
So I guess we just, if everybody's in agreement, we'll just move forward and send that on to the state for the finals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Carol, I think we have April 4th?
The timeline's in here.
To respond?
It's April 2nd.
Yeah. Jacob Mangieri was the finalist, and congratulations to his parents. It was it was a great application. Sad that we only got one, but his was really, would have bubbled to the top anyway, because it was really good. So, we'll have him, we'll recognize him after it comes to conclusion. It has to go through the state in the finals.
No, when he wins it, right?
Yes, when he wins it.
Going to win it
yeah.
from Pequannock.
So that was the only item.
Hopefully all the other towns only had one.
Well, you know what's really sad? I'll talk about it when it's my chance. I'll tell you some other story about that. Okay. Next on the agenda is reports and notices. Are there any comments or questions on the notices that were in our packet?
So, wait, what was in there? One was on the,
You good?
no, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Next on the agenda is the manager's report. Mr. Holberg?
All right. The new docks for swim lanes have been installed at PB Park. That was done end of last week and yesterday. Regarding FEMA elevation grants, we currently have 20 homeowners in the 2015 grant. They're making good progress. We expect construction to begin in about a month, in late April, for many of them.
So Dave, the 20 homeowners they have the funds needed?
They're, yes, making their way through that process so that we have 20 who are at the point of either signing contract or have signed. Perfect.
Well, that's good, at least.
And that's 20 of 26, so I mean, it's good. Yeah, better than 75%.
Good.
Kickoff meeting will be held in April next month for the homeowners involved in the 2016 grant. We did receive not official notice, but through our state OEM representatives, we found out that we were not provided the 2017 grant by FEMA, even though our application got through all of the lower ranking process, got all the way through the state. It was recommended for funding, made it through the first FEMA level, and whatever magic happens at the FEMA headquarters. I'm sure a lot of it had to do with the fact that there were multiple other events around the country this year, and they're trying to spread funds.
So do you think it's a priority thing, or that they're a broke thing?
I think it's a priority thing. I think they're just trying to redirect funds to Texas and Puerto Rico, so forth.
Wow.
We are currently evaluating our 2018 grant and how we handle the 17 grant properties, whether we'll just include them in the 18 grant or do some kind of combination. So we're working through that now, and list a series of upcoming events for your information.
Maybe we should read those dates, or maybe the mayor wants to read.
Well, no, they're not all accurate.
They're not? Oh.
No, remember the dedication for the Martinberry House. But we have something else that day anyhow.
Do they have a new date?
No, they don't have a new date. But we have something scheduled for that date. That's that first aid mental health training.
All day. That is happening on that day, Kath?
Yes, that is happening on that date.
Yeah.
Is that date still good for everybody?
No,
I'm going to get together with Mary tomorrow and plan out all the details.
Like 9 to 4.
Where is it being held at again?
We haven't come up with a location. She asked me to find a location, so.
The location's on us? The location's on us to find?
Is it?
But Mary and I are going to work at.
Or a bunch of people?
It's up to 20.
Up to 20.
Up to 20.
And just so you know, Kathy, when I give my report, I have some people that would like to join us, and I'll explain.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. Okay. Go ahead, Melissa. Next.
Okay. Just so you're all aware, there's a ribbon cutting this Saturday, March 31st.
There's 2 ribbon cuttings.
Oh, okay. Well, I know about the one that's located at the skincare company called Bellis. That's opening up at the corner of One Manor Ave. That's 12 o'clock on Saturday.
Does that have another name?
No, No, I don't know where that
What's
Love
Love
Pequannock,
Pequannock?
it's called Bellis.
All right.
That was just a statement in the email, like that they love Pequannock and moved to Pequannock.
Oh, all right.
Is that behind the barber shop?
Yeah, what's One Manor? Where?
Is that where it is?
I don't, dude, yeah, I haven't been there,
I
so I don't
think
know.
Jim Grant used to be there.
Yes, yes.
All
So,
right.
so it's not two, you're thinking there's another?
There's one at 1 o'clock called Creative Trends Studio, 163 Newark Pumpkin
All right, I
Turnpike.
missed that one, 163 Turnpike, what's it called?
Creative Trends Studio?
I think it's maybe a hair place,
Oh, boy.
I think.
What time is that one?
One.
Is Louise still here?
I saw her leave.
All right, so there's one at 12 and there's one at 1.
There's one at
Oh,
1.
we got it, but
And
yeah.
Louise is trying to schedule one, I think, for the 12th, but I don't know.
Okay,
She's,
so we have...
it's still up in the air.
All right, so we have those. Real quick, the library board met. We met last night because of the weather. It was postponed till this week. And just so everyone knows, Barty's is hosting a Friends of the Library dining fundraiser. Thank you, Bob. Actually, Barty's and the Friends of the Library teamed up together to support the Pequannock Township Library. So the week of April 8th through the 14th, if you go to Barty's anytime during that week for dinner or whatever, and present this coupon, which I believe you can get either at Barty's or the library, where you can pick them up. And a portion of the check, of your check, will be donated to the Friends of the Library. So they teamed up in doing that. So Barty's is always great, so shout out to them for all their work in the community. If anybody wants to see the flyer and the coupon that goes with it, this is it, but I can get them for you if you want. You can
Put
pass
that
them
on
around.
77 too?
Yeah, that would be good.
If we give that to Carol, she can put that on 77.
Yeah, Carol, could you put that on channel 77?
I can get it to the right person.
All right. I'll see if I can find a PDF, like an electronic version. But all right, so that's the one thing I wanted to talk about. Also, the library is giving out tax forms, the 1040 tax forms, to patrons that might need them. So you can pick those up at the library. Something else the library is doing now, in order to promote access to online resources, the library now circulates mobile Wi-Fi hotspots. So the service is provided by Sprint with unlimited data at 4G LTE speeds, if you know what that means, I don't. Up to 10 devices may be connected to the hotspot at one time. Hotspots may be checked out by any Pequannock resident 18 years or older with a valid library card in good standing. All borrowers must sign a user agreement, and the library can also use the hotspots when they are doing outreach programs like the street fair in June and whatnot. So it's great when you're somewhere that there is no Wi-Fi and you want to...
So you check it out like a book?
Yes.
So wait a minute, so is it only in the library, or?
No, you check
For how
out
long?
the
For a
Wi-Fi.
week or for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Check
all
out
devices
the
needed.
Wi-Fi?
Yeah, but for how long?
I do have the procedures.
I give it to Sophia, she'll kill that thing.
I'm not going to go into it, but if you want to read this, here's the procedures. You can tell me what you think. Those are the procedures on how they go about.
You have it for 14 days, no renewal.
Is that what it says, 14 days?
14 days, so
There you go, there's your answer.
I'm going to go
14
sign it
days.
out as soon as I get home.
All right. Real quick, and I'll just finish up my report. Thank you to everyone who helped facilitate getting the library back up and running after the power outage that was caused from an accident. And besides having all the bad weather, there was an accident on March 4th, and then the power was restored on March 13th. So that's how long it was out at the library. So thank you to all the patrons for their patience and for everybody that was involved in getting that back up and running. The library director and perhaps one or two other people, either from the board or employees there, would like to go with us to the training, the mental health first aid training with us. They feel
How many do you have?
Probably 3.
Okay, I'll just keep that.
But if that's okay, I'll get the exact names and...
Yeah, we're gonna do all the details tomorrow.
Okay.
We're gonna do the location.
I know the
most
library
likely.
director wants to go, perhaps one of the employees, and maybe one or two of the other members of the board.
Okay, then I know, Dave, you had some people interested too, right?
Yeah.
Angela would like to attend.
All right, and then the Friends of the Library has scheduled their grand opening for the children's room on Sunday, May 20th at 1 o'clock. You will get official invites to that, but just everyone in the community is invited to that. Sunday, May 20th at 1 o'clock. There'll be a whole grand opening, ribbon cutting thing for the children.
Do you know what time, or you don't know?
1 o'clock.
Oh, 1, okay.
Yeah, it's a Sunday. And then the Economic Development Committee meets tomorrow here in this room at 7:30 p.m. And that's all I have.
What was the date again? May what?
May 20th at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Councilman Cole?
All right, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I just want to say, Mayor's Riverwalk cleanup is April 7th from 9 to 1. Dave, I had a conversation and an email from someone on West Sunset and wanted to know if there's anything we can do to help pass the newer paving of West Sunset, because they say it's a landmine.
Does it have to settle?
Yeah, I think so.
I figured I'd send it your way, so I told her I'd send it your way.
Work some magic.
I was questioned about fair housing guidelines. The applications will be updated to reflect 2018 and also will reflect 2017, 2016, and 2015 W-2 forms. It had said 2016, 15, and 14. That's because that's where the W-2 forms that were required. Being that 2017 W-2s are out now, so we're going to change that. And the salaries are correct on those. Parks and Rec will meet on April 2nd. First Aid Squad will meet on April 9th. And if you're not doing anything tomorrow night, Operation Smile is having, at the high school, is having a fashion show with high school students. Starts at 7 o'clock. And the advisor that runs that program asked me if I would mention that. She also cooks my dinner. So I told her I would mention it. So that's all I have.
On fair housing, when will the census go out? Do you know? Do you know when they go out?
For the...
For the people in the units, they have to fill out a census every year.
Do they do that yearly?
Yeah, we talked to Nicholas last month about that, and he was preparing the mailing to go out.
To go out, okay. All right.
I don't think it's out yet, but he is preparing it.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Brian?
Why is everybody looking at me?
You're up.
You got a big list there.
I got a couple things. Okay. I gave everybody this. It's learn about cyberbullying. I spoke about it last time. It's Thursday, April 12th, 7 through 9. Presented by Community Partners of Hope, and it's at Friendship Hall. Especially nowadays for the kids being bullied in school.
And remember I asked you, I don't know if you found out if it was for adults or for children?
I did not.
He is going into the school...
Separately?
And then he's doing a night thing.
I think the night is for the adults.
For the adults, yeah, because it really doesn't say, so I don't know if someone showed up with their children.
It looks like it's geared towards adults.
But it is free.
It says talks about your loved ones.
Question for Dave. So I was at a builder show in Manhattan, and I've seen this before. It's called Flex Pave. It's a kind of like blacktop, but it's very porous, so it allows water to go through it. There is a higher cost involved. My thought process was, is there any way we can get the county to do this on the rail trail instead of blacktop?
I think they are.
Yeah, I don't know what their final surface...
I haven't finalized on the material, but that's under consideration.
Do you think it's going to be something like this? Have you seen this before?
I'm not that familiar with it, but I heard conversation about that.
When I read their bid specs, it was in there.
Find out, definitely.
Okay. I'll give this to you, and you can always...
I know of other communities locally who've used it, and were
it's big and more
very unhappy with it.
Does it fall apart?
That's not good. It looks very impressive.
It sounds
not walking over it.
Well, it's how long will it last, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's much more expensive than regular blacktop.
It is, yes.
Another thing was this from flooding. I've seen variations of this before. It's like an inflatable
Wrap 'em around
dam
Pequannock.
per se, right?
Don't they have that over at the Stop and Shop?
They do.
They do, and they also have physical barriers that go in front of the door. So use like the
Got the
quick check
physical
over there?
barriers on the 3 large stores, and they use that for the wing that comes out to 23.
There is going to be in Secaucus, they're doing a live setup of this. I got them to put us on the list. I'd like to go out there and take a look at it. But my thought is, can we use something like this, because instead of sandbags, to
redirect the river.
There you go.
You only need a few of them.
South.
See, if you do anything that causes a change in level or flow of the river, you get in trouble with DEP.
I just wanted to go that way.
I understand.
Without coming this way.
I don't think we could get away with it.
No.
Well, yeah, it's something to think about.
Well, how did they get away with it?
Well, you're creating an inverted bathtub. You're not necessarily
redirecting.
Yeah, the amount of water you
Just protecting your place?
is
So it just goes
nominal.
around.
If you were to use that essentially to
In a linear way?
right,
Okay.
kind of like the Route 23 barrier.
The Jersey
does,
barriers?
except it's incomplete. I mean, that's part of the issue that shopping center has, is the barriers created a bathtub, basically, and that's what you'd be doing. And by decreasing water levels in some areas, you're necessarily increasing it elsewhere.
Well, that bathtub.
DEP frowns on that.
I just want to plug the holes in certain areas.
I understand.
On another note, so interesting things, always thinking. Teen Advisory Committee, we're going to have a gathering. It's going to be May 4th. We still have to firm up the date because I think there's a conflict of something going on in town. We really want to get information from the teens in town, especially from PV, that age group, about what they want for their future in town. Whether it is a skate park, or whether it's more fields, or whether it's
More fields?
Well, whatever it is, they really know best. Whether it's a teen center, we really want to start getting their buy-in and start thinking about things like that. So
It's a Friday,
preliminary date is a Friday, but I've heard that something else is on. I'm just trying to get that nailed down. What else?
But that's for teens.
That's for teens, correct.
That's for teens, yeah.
Grains of Hope. 1 million meals, people. We packed 1 million meals in the township of Pequannock. We did a great job. Very proud of that this year.
Very good.
Very good, yeah. Lots of humping. Long day. That day we actually did 175.81 because there was one last box of 31 packets that went out. So the official number is 175.81, 175,081. But in Pequannock, in this township, we have packed 1 million meals. So that's great for a little town like us, and we're one of the best towns in doing that. So I'm very proud to be part of Pequannock.
I think there's only 2 towns in front of us that have packed more meals for that organization.
I think you're right, and I think now it's time to go to 2 million, right?
Well, the saddest thing is I think it's 1 in 6 children in New Jersey go hungry.
It is.
That's right in New Jersey.
Half of the meals that are done stay here. So
New Jersey.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
A couple other notes. So flood meeting is on 4/12, April 12th. Senior is on April 3rd. Municipal Alliance Committee is on April 11th. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Fallon.
Dave, all the trees that are all over the place, are we going to do some cleaning up, or?
No, I don't think so.
No?
There was going to be a contingent.
Only
there's
trees that are blocking right-of-way and on, township property.
Yeah, the library has a big one in front.
Yeah, we've got a lot of trees in parks.
Yeah, a lot of trees on township property, too, that I guess would have to be chipped up or whatever.
How do you figure out, like, in front of, let's say, regular residences down roads, what is considered town property? Do you have call DPW? How do you figure that out?
I can answer this one. Right across from my house is town property, and I notice people throwing branches into the town property.
Really?
You're kidding me.
That's not good.
Go back
Isn't
to
that,
Ryan.
isn't that floodplain in there, too?
Yeah.
Isn't that marsh?
Once you go down the hill, it is.
Can't be doing that.
That's really nice.
No dumping allowed.
Back to Ryan's question, how does a resident, I had a couple of residents ask me, they're like, well, how do you know it's the town property? What's the...
Well, they should know where their property line
You know
is.
whose town property.
They should know where their property, they should know where their property line
They
is.
don't know where the tree came.
We're not talking about easement.
More than likely, it's not a town tree.
Right.
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 Okay, that's what I...
Even though every tree is planted in the same road down the street, it's not a town
Right,
tree.
because of that change. Okay.
Right.
I was 6 inches off.
Did you ever come up with a contingency plan, though? You had talked about a contingency plan.
Well, we
brought in.
We got the,
Anything less than 9 feet in the curb
but
I don't know, that's not true.
I don't know if you heard
Yeah.
anything about pickup yesterday, or Monday. that
it's
big-
different, every right-of-way is different, Frank.
Yeah, I think Monday they didn't get everybody though, did they? not?
They did not. And we had them in town, or we will have them in town for up to 3 days.
Okay.
We weren't going to publish 3 days, we want every,
You want it out by Monday?
Right, because if we knew there's going to be a lot of material, we didn't know how long it's going to take to pick up, so
Okay.
we published, put your stuff out on Monday.
So that was
and-
it, was the Monday was that plan.
But they're gonna still come 2 more days.
2 additional days.
So,
Okay.
we hope to get through the majority of the storm material through regular curbside collection this week.
Okay.
And next Monday starts regular vegetative waste collection.
Okay.
Now,
You
did
know,
that,
for residents who've had a lot of, trees or branches fall on their own property, that's nothing really the
No, I
town
know.
has the resources to deal with.
No.
They've got to,
They gotta
let
hire
me
somebody to
interrupt you
cut it
right
up,
there.
I know, and put it in 4 feet.
Somebody came up Rockledge and cut town trees and dropped the branches onto the people's property. Whose responsibility is that?
they cut town trees. Who cut
who
town
cut the
trees?
town trees?
I'd have to check my text messages, but there's a picture of our town trees being cut by an outside service, and then they dropped all the branches into people's yards.
It wasn't our DPW then. It was,
But I can guarantee we contracted somebody else. I guarantee it. People just don't show up to cut trees.
Well, they
all the
do
way up
for
the street.
Jersey Central.
We have underground wires, that's not going to work.
Well, we didn't contract with anyone. That'd be
I'll send you the picture.
homeowner contract.
Yeah, find the
All the way up
picture.
Rockledge.
maybe they went to the wrong place, I don't know. They're just stealing wood.
They were in Boone or something.
Wasn't us.
I wanna know.
If you've got,
Picture.
yeah.
Because they cut trees on town property, the park across from me, dropped the trees there, cut trees further up.
That's interesting.
Okay, send me the information, I'll follow up.
Okay.
Now, that money that we spent for the extra vegetative, was that taken out of the garbage utility?
Solid waste, yes.
Okay, all right.
I think people will get the hint that have branches just piled up on their edge of their property that weren't picked up, and people that had stuff tied up in 4-foot lengths or bagged or canned, their
You gotta
stuff
follow
got
the
picked
rules.
up, so.
There you go.
But again, it's going to be, I'll send you the information. The other thing is I heard that the fire companies for the installation dinner have secured the castle. Did you hear that one yet?
I have, I don't think they've signed the final contract, but I know they've been talking to them.
Yeah, okay.
In the big
That's
room
exciting.
upstairs? The big room upstairs?
The one
The second floor.
2,000.
The second floor.
2,000 people. That would be exciting if it's in town.
It'd be a nice change.
It would be a nice change.
It'd be close.
Yeah, we could walk there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it.
Okay. Everybody's good? Okay. Next on the agenda is...
What about Kathy Winterfield?
Everybody stole my thunder. So we're good. Yeah, no, we're good. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record. Come on up, might as well just come right on up in order.
Nick Stefano, 28 Greenwood Ave, Pequannock. Just regarding the 217 FMA grant. Obviously, hopefully for the 2018 grant, we could find a way to include those homes in there, especially the SRLs and the RLs, because regardless of everything that went on with almost this perfect storm of the new administration coming in and all these other storms that have also happened over the past year, I would hope that, we would find a way to include them, because these homes are still going up as far as insurance cost at a minimum of 18% a year. So hopefully if we put a few more of the more frequently damaged homes into the next grant application, maybe it would balance it out a little bit more, and they might prioritize that particular grant this next time around, especially since, these are, this grant was specifically the ones right in my neighborhood, that I was fighting for. So hopefully, and I know it's just one of those things, like as soon as I saw the new administration coming in, I'm going, oh my God, we got that, and then you had the Texas storms, and I was like, it is going to be even more competitive in this particular round.
To the extent that we can get some feedback, we want to make our application as competitive as possible. So if we can get feedback on, what did work and what didn't work in that application, we'll obviously apply that to 2008.
Right, if it wasn't the more bang for the buck that they felt. So, okay, thank you.
Jordan?
Jordan Galliano, Tempe Avenue, Pompton Plains. I wasn't here at the last meeting because I was out in Arizona doing some skateboarding and recreation. And while I was out there, I got to skate at 7 different public skate parks and 2 private skate parks. Now, for a lot of people that are debating the issue online and everything, saying that skateboarding attracts drugs, alcohol, graffiti, I was at every single one of those skate parks for a minimum of 2 hours, and there was no graffiti, no drugs, and no alcohol. I was also there with Skate After School, a nonprofit organization that goes to schools after school and does skateboarding lessons. It's ran and organized by Timothy Ward, who's the operator of it, and professional skateboarder Ryan Lay. They are working in 7 different schools in the Phoenix-Tempe area. And by implementing skateboarding in those schools, it's given those kids the ability to spend more time to burn energy after school, do what they want to do to have fun, and then get back and do schoolwork. And the kids that are involved in the Skate After School program have been doing better in their schools because of skateboarding, because of the Skate After School program. And then another thing while we were out there is that Timothy Ward and one of his volunteers stated that at any skate park that they go to, and if they see anybody misbehaving when it comes to drugs or alcohol or graffiti, they kick them out. They don't give them any strikes, they don't give them any penalties, they just kick them out, because that's not the place for youth to be influenced, or not influenced, but to be I can't think of the word right now, exposed to, thank you, Rich, and they don't want it. And that's what we are trying to instill in this community by saying that, all right, we have a drug issue, we have kids that are bored, we have kids that are getting exposed to drugs and alcohol, and we don't want that. That's the last thing that we want to harbor in this community. Also, with going back with what Steve was saying, the granite that we did move with assistance from Mr. Phelan's trucks, that was on March 14th, 2016, which we got 2 of his trucks to donate the materials, or transport the materials. And then the date at which we met with Councilman Phelan was January 12th, 2018. And when we did speak with Mr. Phelan, you did say that you were in support of the project and the kids in town.
I have the right to change my mind.
Okay, but I would like to finish. So you would also express that you'd be willing to donate your forklift at your job to help transport the granite, also to help donate your trucks to transport the granite as well. So I kind of find it a little startling that when you helped us out and you expressed support for the project and you express interest in helping the youth in this community, why does it stop at skateboarding? Because I'm a skateboarder. I grew up in this town, born and raised. I've been skateboarding for 19 out of the 24 years of my life, and I don't believe it's right to deny a project for people that have been trying to do this as a third wave of youth trying to get this done. I have a job. I have a full-time job, actually, and a second part-time job, and I'm breathing every ounce of my body doing this project, and I don't think that it's right to keep stalling this project to deny Rich and his wife and their future son, Steve and his sons, him, myself, Aaron and Priscilla and everybody else that's here that is passionate about this project, and future generations of kids that are passionate about this project, and the kids that are doing skateboard lessons tomorrow. How is it fair that, you know, of course, Little League, I was involved with Little League when I was younger, and I enjoyed it, but then as time went on, I got bullied because of being a skateboarder, and that turned me off to sports, because the kids would harass me just because I wasn't up to par with their standards of playing. And just like Kathy said, they were a grassroots organization that had to start somewhere, and we're starting somewhere. We're trying to build the foundation for kids that want to participate and be incorporated in this community, and to give them a place to express themselves creatively and physically. And we're just trying to do something that every other organization in this town has tried to do. And by trying to stall that, I just don't think that's fair. And whatever council wants to decide, whether it's a letter or a resolution, and like Kathy said, business has been done by a resolution for anything. We passed a resolution for the location of Washington Park, and we brought to the table the pros and cons of the location, because it was by Holy Spirit School. That way it can serve kids in that school after school. You have Deli Works or Deli Planet that just reopened. So that's a spot where kids and parents can spend their money. And before we even started the project, we didn't know that the rail trail was going to be approved. And the rail trail is going to run right behind the skate park. And then with Little League, when kids are playing sport, playing baseball, and their parents want to take their little kids or whoever else to skateboard, it's an epicenter for the community. And it's centrally located for the town. That way everybody from any point of town can access it equally. And I'm just kind of at a loss of words, because I'm really passionate about this project, and I just keep hating to see it wait, and we have to wait another month to decide what we want to do about passing a resolution or a letter, and Mr. Hallberg's going to be leaving soon, and like this is a time that we need to do this, because if it keeps waiting, who knows if it'll ever get built. We're a great community, and the only way to make a community better is by progressing and innovating and allowing new people to come into this town and see how great it is, to allow them to spend their money and innovate. People want to come to Pequannock and eat at Little Food Inn or the Pompton Queen Diner, and that's what makes our town great, because we want people to come in, and diversity. And the granite that we have for this structure is historical granite. We're saving it. We're saving a piece of skateboarding history that we can use in this town, that kids from this town can say that they were able to skate on something that was used for a limited amount of time, that was developed by New York City Parks and Rec. And it's just baffling, because this is something that's so new and innovative and progressive for a progressive community that it should be a no-brainer. Like, sure, I mean, it's a lot of money for the initial investment, but for the overall maintenance of the project, it's nothing compared to any other thing that we have to spend money on.
Well, Jordan, I think that this is a third generation trying to do this, and it takes time to move something forward. I think everybody has different thoughts about the skate park.
I understand.
Sometimes the town is not willing to move forward. And then I say town, that's the entire town. Now, I believe there's different people in the community who feel differently. I think there's a lot of support for the project. I'm not sure if all that support sits up here on council, but I know that you have a huge following. I know that there's a huge initiative for this. I think the question for you to ask this council is, would they support building it there, even if you raised all the money? Because maybe if they don't support it at all, there isn't anything you can do to get this off the ground. Maybe that's the question to pose to people, is if you were going to raise 100%, would you still support it? I don't know what the answer would be, because I know a year ago, the people who sat here supported it 100%. And now there's a change of events. I don't understand the differences either. And if people aren't willing to discuss it, well, then there's no conversation.
Yep.
And if some people have personal issues as to why they don't want this built, they're not revealing those issues, all right? And you can't make somebody reveal those issues. All you can do is keep trying to move forward and decide when enough is enough, and when you have to move on with your life and maybe move out of a town who's not progressive enough. And maybe other people will do the same thing because they want to stay stalled. And we wonder why our economic development doesn't move or progress around here. You know, why Wayne is building up and Pequannock still sits the same way. It's a mindset, but I see it changing. I don't give up hope. Yeah. You know, you're very passionate, you're very young, and you're an Eagle Scout. You know what it takes to get something off the ground, and you know there's hurdles, and you're not in it alone, and just keep going.
Yep.
Just keep going.
And also, I don't want to keep taking up more time, but I just want to make it a point, because everything that we've been doing, at least until July, August, has met almost little to no criticism. But as of lately, going back to what I was mentioning about, organized sports and being bullied and everything like that, as of recently, there's been personal attacks on many of us that are in support of this project. And in my opinion, it's just as bad as what I had to experience in high school and middle school, and it's borderline harassment and bullying to the extent that it makes me want to move out of this town. I love Pequannock, I really do. That's why I'm trying to do something in this town. My grandfather and my uncle formed the Unico in this town. So I have roots in this community, and I want to make more roots in this community. And
well, it seems like certain people, and I don't know who all they are if they feel, but I'll be having a lot of conversations like Melissa will with other people, but it seems like we want to pick winners and losers with our children. And I'm not about
every child's a winner. And that's why we have to.
That's right. But we're picking and choosing. We're picking and choosing, and it's time we have some good conversations about why we're doing that. And that's where we have to get to. We have to get down to the sociology behind Pequannock and find out what is the demographics of this town and why is there this hatred towards one group and such a roaring support for another group. And I think that's maybe it's even beyond you and me.
Yeah, I'm no psychologist. I don't know.
But collectively, I think getting to the root of that will make Pequannock rise to a whole new level as a community, as a whole, all-inclusive community instead of exclusive of certain people in the community. And I know that's what you're feeling, and I know you've been bullied. I know you continue to be bullied. And I just ask you to stand strong.
Oh, I'm trying. I really am. Okay. And that's what skateboarding has taught me, just falling down, picking myself back up again, no matter how it hurts, and succeeding, and how great that feels.
And all that is just feedback for the future.
Yep, absolutely.
So hang in there.
Thank you very much.
Jordan, by the way,
Mr. Herb,
what was your Eagle Scout project?
I meant to say that before. I did a food drive for the Interfaith Food Pantry of Morris County in 2011. I received over a ton of food, a metric ton of food for the Interfaith Food Pantry of Morris County. And at the time when I did my Eagle project, the statistic was that 1/4 of Morris County receives food from food banks. That was the statistic. The richest county in New Jersey receives 1/4.
And that what year? 2011?
2011. So I don't know, I've tried going, I haven't had much time going back to the Interfaith Food Pantry to meet Doug Mann and everyone there. And but yeah, I mean, that's where kind of my sense of community comes from, is from being a scout and doing stuff like this. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street. I'm just going to talk as a citizen, not as any of the committees that I belong to. I've heard a lot of, I hate to use the word rhetoric because it sounds cliche, but I'm in favor of the skate park. I'm not in favor of how the council proceeded to give the ability to somebody to create a $400,000 skate park and not make the citizenry in the town. Why you got all this kickback and why there's all this animosity towards it is not because of these kids. It's because of you guys. You went ahead and let this guy make an estimate. You didn't put a budget on it. Sky's the limit, you know.
That's not true.
What was the budget you gave him?
I don't know, what was the budget number?
250. So how did it get to 400,000?
250 or 300.
And that's not even the end. As the guy who gave the, proposal said, there's no lighting, there's no fencing, and the groundwater situation is not certain. So the 400,000 isn't even the final top figure. And most people, you talked about the Little League. Did they start out with Field 1 and what we see today? They started out with a fence and maybe a backstop with chain link, or actually they said it was chicken wire. We're starting out with the creme de la creme of skate parks.
Wow.
And the fact is that these kids are going to raise $200,000+.
I don't think so, because the council...
I don't think so either.
Well, I don't think the council is going to agree to that.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, if we donate, I'm a citizen, and I give them money. Let's say I give them $1,000 or something like that. And then I find out that when the thing doesn't work, they're going to give it not to the town, because that's why I would give them the money, would be something to improve Pequannock. They're going to give the money to a skate park place somewhere else. I would be a very unhappy citizen if that happened. And I think a lot of other people, if you tell everybody you're asking for money, that when they don't donate the money and it doesn't happen, it's going to go someplace else, do you think a lot of people would give money then?
I don't think people, Pequannock is where they're going to get their money. I think it's from corporate.
Well, that's probably a great idea, but again, a corporation that's interested in this town will donate the money and then find out again that it's going to go someplace else. I don't think it's any different for a corporation than it is a citizen. You're making a donation to improve the town and have something for the people. The whole project here is we're going to improve things for the kids. And I agree 100%. There's a lot of kids that aren't into baseball, football, and soccer. Alternative sports are fine, and I would love to see a skate park in the town. Reasonable amount of money spent on it, and they raise the money first, and then we would do something. When they come up with $50,000 or $60,000 and you put whatever you want to put to it, you build a nice skate park. And I also, as I said earlier in the evening, there's other alternatives, and there's other towns that have done this that we could talk to.
Well, I think, Joe, I don't know if you know anybody. I mean, you've met them here. I think you'd be a great advisor or resource to them.
Well, like I said, I'm very much in favor of having something other than baseball and so forth. And I think a lot of these kids are extremely committed. The group is committed. And it goes on, you said 2015. I can remember back in 2008 there was talk about
this is third generation. Yeah. It goes back way before that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you know Hank Ulrich, but he was on this project.
But nobody, they've never raised any money. And now we're asking them to raise this gigantic sum of money, whether we give them a resolution or a letter. I think every reasonable person in the room realizes it's not going to happen. I think you have to face facts. If they haven't been able to raise $10,000 in 10 years.
That's not the same group.
Well, whatever group, so forth. So anyway, like I said, I'm trying to be objective. I hear back and forth, even on the council, you haven't been really open-minded yourself in conducting the meeting tonight. I'm a little disappointed in that.
On what? On what subject?
You cut people off and you keep repeating. You tried to force that vote on people, and you repeated yourself over and over again.
You know why, Joe? We've been talking about this since 2015.
Exactly. So what happened is you can see that the council would turn it down, because there is the public opinion. The reason the people on the council, I'll tell you why they probably wouldn't vote for it. Because there isn't an overall commitment. We haven't sold the program to the town. Not that it isn't the fact that we sell it to you guys. You have to sell it to the whole community. And that hasn't been...
But know how you went you've been working on the bike path for 30 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that was, you were able to get total grant money. And I think that they could possibly get total grant money too.
They should try to do that. One of the things that happened, should they be out there at the hoedown projecting their thing? They were supposed to be at the river cleanup last year. Nobody from the skateboard group showed up. And those are the kind of things that they're going to get out there, and the people are going to be for them when they see them doing other things for the town, helping out in other ways, volunteering for other things, not just for their own project, but things that are good for the town. That's when they'll get the support from everybody. And I think that's what has to happen. And like I said, it sounds like I'm against it, but in reality, I'm against the way it was handled. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, exactly, because they've been at every hoedown and every street fair, and they were at the river cleanup, because I was at the river cleanup.
Not last year. They were not
maybe it was
there.
the year, I don't know which year, the year before, I don't know.
Yeah, the year before they were there. But
Yeah.
that's, you got to make a commitment and keep.
Yeah, and they actually did their own cleanup of.
But like I said, I think that we weren't fair to them in the way we presented it to the town.
Well, that's
why you got all this kickback from people.
Well, that's
people
why the
think,
council
well,
did the advisory in 2015, because that's what this council thought was the right thing to do.
Yeah, but like I say, you need commitment from the municipality to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and especially at that dollar figure, you know. Anyway, that's I
Well, they're
just want
back
to try
there.
to put a.
You want to give them
objective
some
spin.
advice, they're sitting right behind you. I think they could use some wise advice.
Get involved in the town more, not just for your own project, but for other things. There's a lot of community work that we could do. Just like you said, you did that food bag project for Scout. You could do it for the town
Okay,
now.
well, you guys can introduce yourselves to each other. Yeah. Sandy?
I know.
We'll take one more after this, and then we're...
Sandy McCourt, 4 Pateri Place, Pompton Plains. I love this town. I'm born, raised, and bred in this town, like you, Dave, and I don't know if any of the rest of you are. You too, Melissa? And I've never seen anything like this before, and I was trying to look back and see what. So I asked Carol for a lot of the minutes of the skateboard committee. I went through all the town council minutes and kind of put together a little history. And what I realized as I'm reading the history happened this 2008, we're going to raise $150,000. Maybe that's a different generation. Never happened. Then the 2015, all of a sudden there gets to be an ad hoc committee. Now we have a town Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. There's no clubs in any of the schools. There was only 13 kids who signed up, maybe a couple more signed up since last Thursday. That might be. So what happens in this community that I've seen on all these years is there's a community interest that drives something. And what I think we witnessed in the, February 27th council meeting was that there's a great interest in us building the entire skateboard community, a beautiful, as the designer said, best in New Jersey skate park. But there's not a lot of us who want to spend that kind of money. And I am all for kids. I volunteered for that teen advisory and you never got back to me. I hear now they're meeting on May 4th and I am going to try, if I'm allowed to show up and help. Am I allowed to do that? To come and help on the teen advisory or no? I volunteered my services.
Every meeting we have is public.
Okay, well, all right, then I'll do that. So what I'm noticing as I'm reading is, it's not that the Parks and Rec Committee is saying, oh my God, there's a real interest in skateboarding and our recommendation to the council is let's build a skate park. All of a sudden we get an ad hoc committee and they're given the charge, from what I read, to come up with the factors involved and, come up with some designs and things. And then I start reading it and in Jordan's, he said he went to Sayreville to discuss their skate park maintenance. Jordan said that Mr. Oos said that the only maintenance the town has to do to the skate park is clean up garbage and remove graffiti. The reason being that they have to remove garbage and graffiti is because the skate park is not thoroughly patrolled to prevent vandalism and litter. And then we had all that discussion about how much police time it's going to take and all that. And then Sayreville's skate bowl is in current disrepair due to a high water table. that the township, you said it, it's not my minutes, it's your minutes. I'm just reading you from your own minutes. So, so I'm reading this and I'm saying, okay, so how did we get from nothing to $400,000? And as I'm reading this, I'm seeing, okay, so they get a designer in and it's like kids loose in a candy store. Oh yeah, let's put in this and let's do that, and let's do the best in New Jersey. That was an email to you, Dave, from the guy. We're going to build the best in New Jersey skate park. Well, no offense, I think there needs to be some kind of community interest first, and to build that, and that we don't need a best in New Jersey skate park to be paid for here. You were talking about bringing in revenue and bringing people in from out of town. That's fine. We're going to get that through the bike trail. We will bring in people. We can do the little paths off of it. You can use your granite. You can put your little historical plaque on that, or any number of other solutions. My son, Brendan, who was also a skateboarder, said now that he's a homeowner, no way. He's like, I don't think you should spend $400,000 on a skate park. Why don't you get a bus and, have it through Parks and Rec and have them take it there and see if there's even interest. And then I saw that Solid Foundation, that's what they do. They get a little bus together and then they go to different skate parks. So why are we building a $400,000 or $300,000 or whatever skate park when we don't even know, we have 13 kids. And yeah, if you build the best in New Jersey one, you're going to pull in people from all over the place. But who's paying for it? The people who elected you. And I'm sorry, that's not what I elected you for. I elected you because I felt you were fiscally responsible. That was what you ran on, and that's what I'm counting on. I think that having a resolution to do this is unprecedented. It is special treatment. This has never been necessary in this entire town, not for baseball, not for Joe, not for anything else that has happened. We have never had that. It is not true. You can raise money. If this town is in support of something, you can get 1 million bags, grains of hope done. You can build the baseball fields. You can get a new snack stand. You can get whatever, a hockey program in 3 months. Okay? So that is, it is unprecedented special treatment, and I hold you all accountable to not let that happen. If people are behind this, they're going to do it, and it was very disturbing to me as a founding trustee of a 501c3. I know in our articles of incorporation, we had to designate, if our program falls apart, what are we going to do? We're giving it to Pequannock. We're giving it to some other youth program in Pequannock. And then when I hear their 501c3, what they're going to do is give it to another skate park community. Well, who is that? Whoever, I'm with him. Like, that's not right. I think that needs to be disclosed, what's going on. And then just a year ago almost, in April of 2016, Jordan, you're saying taxpayer money is not going to this project because skaters are more than willing to raise the funds necessary to make the project happen. How did we get from that to $150,000 and then almost, thanks to you, it didn't happen, $250,000 more this year? How did that all happen? Okay? We went from A to Z, from 0 to 1 million. Where is the happy medium? Where is us working together and finding ways to utilize the existing equipment they have? And it's not about, we're neglecting the skateboard. I want to do something not only for skateboarders, but what other individual sports. That's why I want to be on that team advisory. That's why I want to help. It's not just for skateboarding. Let's use our money to provide other opportunities in this town for those individuals who are not into team sports. So, I mean, that's just, I just couldn't believe it. As I was reading it like a history, and that's what came to me. It's like, where did this all come from? How did it blow up out of control? And I just don't get it. I don't get how this happened. How did it get pushed along this far, this fast? And It was badgering before. Catherine, you were badgering your own council. Well, we should do this now. We're going to do it. We're not going to do it. Well, it's not fair to them. You know what? It's not fair to us. This town already committed $30,000, and they spent $24,000 on the engineering, right? You already did that. So don't say we didn't already do something, because we already did that. There's a commitment. And if you can't do it with a letter, and if you're not going to donate the money back to the town, I just don't think that's right. I will help do anything to help these kids create some opportunity in town to skateboard, and I will help do climbing walls or whatever else it is that we can come up with to help the youth in this community get off the electronics.
I'll tell you what, Sandy.
Okay?
You have alienated the skateboard community. I don't know how you two could heal that to work together, but maybe you'll want to try to find a way with them.
I'll work with him with the trail. I think there's a way to do that, and I would be willing to.
You would work with the skate.
You know what? I never said anything bad about skateboarding. I never said anything bad about the kids in it. I just bring up things that they said and hold people accountable. You know what? If you said you're going to raise the money and you don't need the taxpayer money, don't come crying back to us a year later and say you want a resolution, you want $150,000. If this is what you said you're going to do, and this is what you said you were going to do, Catherine, then do it. And then you're not going to have any problem.
We have one more, Rich, and then we have a closed session tonight.
And there's one in the back corner.
Well, one more, and we're done. We've way exceeded 30 minutes.
Rich Osowski, 151 Lincoln Park Road. I just want to start off, there is a divide in town, and it's funny to me. I didn't grow up in town. I'm not from here, I do a lot of things in town for the town, but I grew up in Clifton, and I moved here when I was a sophomore in high school. It was very difficult. It's a very different community moving from Clifton to Pequannock, and I noticed very quickly that there's a big difference in Pequannock between one side of town in Pompton Plains and the other side that's in Pequannock, and it's funny to me that when I hear a lot of the addresses of the people who are really upset about where their money's going to be spent and where it's going to be going, a lot of those people are in the Pompton Plains side of town, and I grew up, my family didn't have a whole lot of money, we lived good, but I was taught, number one, not to brag, so I don't feel the need to brag about the things that I do in town, but I've seen the council members at different things, and the different organizations that I'm a part of in town. Again, I'm not from here, but growing up, I moved here, like I said, when I was a sophomore, and there's a big difference between the Pequannock side and the Pompton Plains side of town, and I just find it funny that a lot of the people that come out against this are from the Pompton Plains side of town that does have, more money. It seems to be a more affluent side of town. There's bigger houses. There's, the kids that I was in high school with, I had an old beat-up piece of junk Chevy Blazer that, I got into an accident, and I had to go to the junkyard with my dad and pay for the parts of it and replace it myself, and there was other kids that were wrecking brand new Nissan, whatever, and BMWs, they're destroying their cars, wrecking their cars, and, their parents went out and bought them brand new cars. So there's a double standard in town. I just wanted to say that. I did write down a couple things that I just wanted to touch on. It's nice to see that we're back to some kind of decorum with the meetings. I was watching and listening to the recording from the February 27th meeting, and I also listened to the recording from the September 22nd, 2015 meeting, when Steve and Tasha first did a presentation before the council after they had already done a presentation to Parks and Rec. And it's funny listening to some of the comments. One of the comments from that September 22nd, 2015 video, Rich and Dave Cole, were talking about possible locations, and actually both of you guys suggested that Washington Park might be a decent location, and Rich's big sticking point was to not put it behind Town Hall near the First Aid Squad, and he stated that he wouldn't be for it if that was a location. And it's again kind of funny to me where Kathy's being accused of badgering people and saying different things, but I can't tell you how many times Rich was very solidly standing his ground and saying that it will never go at the first aid squad, back there by the first aid squad. So if you're passionate about something and you want to see something done, you're going to stand your ground. It's silly to be putting personal attacks on one council member because they're sticking to a point that people don't agree with. So I just wanted to say that. Also, watching that meeting from September 22nd, 2015, it's amazing how much has changed in the 3 years. We've made a lot of progress. We finally got an ad hoc committee that was formed to show some commitment from the town. It's funny, Jordan had short hair back in that video in those 3 years ago. I myself, I wasn't even married at that time. Now I'm married, expecting my first kid. Congratulations. Hopefully future skateboarder, but I'm not going to force him to be. And Steve had two little kids, and now one of them has picked up scootering, and he's excited to have, a park that he can go to scooter in, So a lot of things have changed in the 3 years that we've been trying to do this. And there's actually more and more people that are interested in this project and that have gotten interested in it since we formed the committee and they saw that there's actually some kind of commitment, from the town. And we've gone to the hoedowns, we've gone to the street fairs, we've had different events, and people have come up to us. And it's really sad because I have a lot of people that came up to us personally and said that they support the skate park, but they won't say it to anyone else other than us because they're afraid of being attacked by other people, and other business owners have said similar things where they'll say, I support it, I think it's a good idea, but I really can't put it out there that I support it, which is sad and tells you that there's a certain mentality, against that. And again, talking about stalling the project by not doing a resolution, I think it's really good timing actually that the rail trail is finally coming to fruition after 30-something years. And I can tell you that if it takes 30 years, Pequannock will have a skate park because we're not going to give up. You can see that there's been 3 different groups of people, and the kids start out and then they get older and they move on, they go to college. So some of those kids have come back when they can from college to support us, but it's not going to go away. And with skateboarding being in the 2020 Olympics, it's only going to get more popular, and there's going to be more people interested in it. And I think to demean that there's only 13 people that are interested in it that are signing up for lessons is just not appropriate because, again, not everyone wants to take lessons. A lot of people get into skateboarding because they are an individual. There are no rules to skateboarding. There's no certain way to do it. There's no coaches. You just kind of do what you want to do, and it teaches you perseverance, for yourself to get back up and do things again. Again, part of the resolution was stating Washington Park as the location to use that for the skate park. I do think Washington Park is a good location. I think we went through several of them, and to go, unless some crazy event happens and the town acquires some other properties from some big event that happens and they acquire something that's out of the flood zone, most of the parks are in the flood zone, so it's not, I don't think there's, at this time, a better location than that. And as far as in Washington Park, it's funny, I went on Google Earth and I looked at the parking lot that's over there, and there's 20,000 square feet of asphalt that's there with about 40 parking spots. And each parking spot, if you look at the average weight of cars nowadays, is 4,000 pounds. So when at full capacity, that's 160,000 pounds of weight right next to the same location where they're going to put the skate park. So if we're worried, a couple skateboarders in the skate park, ranging between 100 pounds and 200 pounds, that's a lot less weight, than a car or 40 cars that are right next to it. So you can't tell me that there's different soil right next to it. Maybe there's a slight difference, and maybe there is some organic material that's underneath there that may decompose. But I mean, that stuff's been there, and putting that weight on it, this designer has taken that into account with the different calculations and that kind of stuff that he's done with that area. as far as some other things that have been brought up in terms of the specifics, wanting specifics, before, it's like going back to 2015 again, when, we were trying to get a committee to be formed by the town, and everyone said, well, are you going to require helmets? Are you going to require this? Are you going to require that? I mean, how much is it going to cost per square foot? We didn't know. We had an average, but the designer came in, and that average per square foot was more than what we thought. So, I mean, we wouldn't have known that. We couldn't have given you those answers at that time. And I find it funny that, I was at the budget meetings, and the town was discussing spending $900,000 for plans to build a new building, and they said that the designer was going to have to come up with logistics, and they were going to have to decide how they were going to, if they were going to move the police department to a different location, keep it here, build the building here, build that. But, I didn't hear any opposition from the council saying that we shouldn't spend $900,000 and investigate it and then follow up.
It was $300,000.
300,000? I may be mistaken, but even still, $300,000 is still a lot of money, and they weren't being held to, the same standard wasn't there. Those decisions weren't being asked to be made before they decide to go into designing and that kind of stuff and those kind of logistics. Also, it's very poignant that we had Little League here, because the town spent around $15,000 and $30,000 to improve 2 fields over there, and now you have all these people that are saying, well, hey, why aren't we allowed to play there? Where was the logistics and the planning of that before we decided to spend that money? So again, it's a bit of a double standard, and the skate park committee has been attending all these different things, the hoedown, the street fair. We went to a few Parks and Rec meetings and spoke with them. Myself and some of the other members have actually spoke with some of the employees of the town on the phone or in person, and it just seems hypocritical to me. Again, I played Little League growing up. Again, I didn't grow up in Pequannock. I played Little League in Clifton, but the director of the Parks and Rec wanted to have a meeting with the people from Little League, and as Tom said, they set up the meeting expecting that there was going to be a ton of people there and come out, and one father and his daughter showed up. So, I mean, we haven't had that problem for anything that we've done in terms of the skate park. We've had people show up, and everyone shows up, and we put the word out ahead of time and give them plenty of notice. So, I mean, again, it seems hypocritical that you're willing to give money to another organization who seems like they're not prepared. But just because it's here and it's established, that's okay, we're just going to give it to them. So, it just seems hypocritical to me. What Dave Cole brought up about his contact, with the fundraising, that's great. If you would, be willing to give us your contact's information, I'm sure they could give us a lot of direction in terms of fundraising. It is a bit different if I'm going to try and raise funding for diabetes or arthritis. There's going to be different kinds of events that you're going to do. I don't foresee us doing something like, fancy dinner for the skate park or doing like a golf outing or something like that. It's kind of a different group of people that you're targeting, and I think a lot more people deal with someone with arthritis or diabetes or something like that, and they're going to say, oh yeah, of course I'm going to donate to that. So again, one of the things that we're pushing against is the stereotype that you get for skateboarders. When people think of skateboarders, they think of some person with tattoos. They don't think of a guy that's a small business owner, that's an entrepreneur, that's a single father, or that has a family with a couple young kids who maybe they skated when they were an adult, but their kids have no interest in it, and they didn't push it on them. But, maybe this will give them an opportunity to start skating again and form a new connection with their kids, and they can do it together, So again, not everyone is into the team sports and the other things. And I think it's a shame that when those established organizations come before the council, they're so willing to put the money towards it, no questions asked, and like Kathy mentioned too, with the Martin Berry project, project, I heard a lot of things coming up that were unprecedented that the town hadn't done before for that they were requiring of that project. So, just because things have always been done a certain way doesn't mean it's the right way to do it, and doesn't mean that things shouldn't change or be done a different way. And that's a very closed-minded way of thinking if you look at it that way. And again, going back to like that meeting on the 27th, like I said, I didn't grow up here. So when I moved here, I was a sophomore, and kids had all their friends. So I was bullied when I moved here. A lot of kids picked on me. I'm the new kid. I'm not from town. I don't have as much money as them. I don't have as nice of a car or whatever, And the people against this are doing a lot of those same tactics. They're using the same tactics, trying to put you down and say demeaning things about you. Very distasteful comments are being made about, like I said, a lot of people don't want to come out publicly and say that they support this, but they come to us privately and they tell us. I mean, Ryan Hurd came out for the meeting for the design and came out to break the ice. I thought he did an excellent job. He got everyone laughing, everyone was loosened up. You could tell that the mood was tense before that. And he came with a helmet on and some pads. And you can see that on social media, people took pictures of it, and they made all kinds of disparaging comments against Ryan Hurd about his appearance, and that, he's obviously for it. They didn't mention at all about what he was saying and that he was just trying to break the ice. They were just saying derogatory things about him and about other young adults that came up here and that spoke, saying things like they should get a job, they need more help than just a skate park, insinuating very disgusting things that are not nice, and Ryan's an adult, I'm a young adult, and the other people that have spoke up here, but, someone like Aaron, I give him a lot of credit because he's a much younger guy, and he's told us some stories about him being bullied too. And when you've dealt with it, I've dealt with it, I know how to deal with a bully. It's a lot harder when you're younger and the kids don't know what they're doing and they're not thinking about it and they're just reacting. And if this is the way that the adults act, I can only imagine how the kids are acting. So it's easy for us to do. But like I said, there's a lot of people that it's a lot harder for them to come out in support of it, and it's the preconceived notion. So we're going against the preconceived notion. So it's hard for us to fundraise, and again, I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't the popular person in school. I was a kid that was sitting alone in the lunchroom that didn't have a lot of friends. But the only people that wanted to be my friends were the kids that were skateboarders and BMX riders, because they tend to be the people that don't really care about those stereotypes. I just recently got back on my board. I haven't skated in a long time. I can't go to CVS and skate on a 3-set and get kicked out by the police. That doesn't look good when you're an adult and you got a kid on the way. So there's no place for me and other people that are young adults to go. And I think that having the kids in that environment, like Jordan was giving you a good example of the way they do things out in Arizona. There's no reason why we can't do stuff like that. There's a lot of those kids that are falling through the cracks that aren't getting that kind of support. And to have older adults that have been in that situation, that know what they're going through, to be there to support them, I think that can be a huge thing in a kid's life. They may not have anywhere else to turn. So it's not just about money. It's not just about this thing or that thing. It's about the people that don't have a voice too. You guys were elected to represent all of Pequannock. Not just the people with the loudest voice, but you were elected up there to represent everyone. And it's just seeing the things that are going on and the way that some people are going about this. It makes you have flashbacks to being a kid, and being picked on.
There's an organization, the Pequannock Coalition, of 28 leaders in this township who support this initiative. And they're from all walks of life. They're coaches, they're teachers, they're religious people, there's all kinds. And I don't know if you were here at that meeting or not when they got up and spoke about that they support this initiative. The PBA supports this initiative. So I'm confused as you are. Why you wouldn't support this initiative.
And
But
I know, I'm not going to take up too much more time.
Your point's well taken.
I just wanted to say one more thing. In terms of the resolution versus a letter, I really do think a resolution holds more weight than a letter, and it shows that you're really committed to it. And I have to say again, some organizations have come out in support of it. We've had different fundraising events. We had local food establishments and pizzerias that donated to some of the Pequannock skate park events, and there was people that saw that and said, oh, well, I'm not going to shop at those pizzerias, or I'm not going to shop at that subplace. And I have to say, have you ever heard that about an organization and a business because it donated to a nonprofit and to an organization that people said, I'm not going to go there and support their business? And I had to explain to that person that I guess that they're not going to be shopping for pizza in Pequannock, because for different events that we've had, I've gone to every single pizza place in Pequannock, and they've all donated pizza to different events that we've had. So I guess those people are just going to have to get pizza somewhere else, but that's what we're fighting against. So there are, like I said, business owners that would like to donate to something, but why would you donate to something when you don't see that there's a firm commitment from the council? And you could possibly get some backlash from people because you donated. Again, we have other in-kind donations from other businesses that they've given us written commitments that they will do this.
Well, Rich, as far as I'm concerned, you've got the commitment of some of the biggest leaders in town.
Yep.
And that'd be the police. And if people don't believe what the police say, well, I don't know who they believe.
Yep.
So your points are well taken, and
Yep.
we have a closed session to
Yep.
go into, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. You have one more, you will take it?
No.
You're not taking it?
No. We have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll
No,
make
we're
that
done.
motion.
Second?
Made that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gotta go to bed.
I'm tired.